Hey, hello, friends. It's Anthony Florio here with you for another edition of Strictly Sports NFL Friday. 13 games on the docket, along with our newest NFL Power Rankings. Should there be any, time permitting, and of course, also shakeups will be in there as well because of the results of a week ago. So I am joined as always by Michael Fletcher. No word on where Michael Bullock is. We don't know. He's probably running late or what's going on with him, but hopefully he'll be here soon enough. So we're just going to dive right in. Of course, 3 games went down yesterday on Thanksgiving, as everybody knows. 2 blowouts and 1 game that actually did have some excitement and some Shakespearean drama, which was great. So the Detroit Lions all over the Philadelphia Eagles, 45-14. Make it 3 straight wins on Thanksgiving and overall for the Lions. The Carolina Panthers flexing their muscle, a 33-14 win over the Dallas Cowboys. Defense absolutely dominated. I could not have been any happier about that. And of course, Tony Romo done for the year, re-aggravating the clavicle injury he suffered back in week 2. He's done for the year. And of course, in the shocker of the night, the Chicago Bears went in the Lambeau Field and knocked off the Green Bay Packers 17-13. Just unbelievable. That's all I can say about that. And they spoiled Brett Favre Appreciation Night, if you will, at Lambeau. How about it? So those are the results so far. We have 13 more games to go this weekend, and 12 of them on Sunday, 1 on Monday. So with all that said, let's dive right in. First game we're going to get into, and it's a big one right off the bat. The Minnesota Vikings going up against the Atlanta Falcons. This game in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. I mean, this should be this is one of the big games of the week right here, one of the headliners, if you will. Fox will have this game, and it will be Kevin Burkhardt with John Lynch and Pam Oliver in the Georgia Dome. And the odds, the spread, is a 1 to 1.5. I do believe it's favoring the Minnesota Vikings. So of this, I am sure. Yeah, 1 to 1.5 for the Minnesota Vikings, and rightfully so. Series history. The series history favors the Minnesota Vikings by a count of 16-10. Their last meeting was a year ago in Minnesota. The Vikings won that 41-28. Last meeting in Atlanta was in 2011. The Falcons won that 24-14. And the last time the Vikings came out of the Georgia Dome with a win was in 2003. Minnesota beat Atlanta in the Georgia Dome 39-26. So that's the history of all of that. 16-10 in favor of Minnesota, including Minnesota winning just a year ago at TCF Bank Stadium. This time it's not in the cold of Minneapolis. No. It'll be inside the cozy confines of the Georgia Dome. And what is going on with the Atlanta Falcons? I mean, I just can't put I'm scratching my head. I mean, they've lost 4 of their last 5 after starting the year 5-0. And to make matters worse, no Devontae Freeman, he's out. Their great young receiver Leonard Hankerson, he's out. Heck, it's so bad their kicker's even out. Matt Bryant, he's out. So 3 major names for the Falcons out. As if things couldn't get any worse for that team. I mean, I don't even know who their backup kicker is. But the good thing is you still have Matt Ryan. You still have Julio Jones. You still have Roddy White. You still got those guys. But I don't think they're even going to be enough. I mean, Minnesota was playing some damn good ball up until they ran into the Green Bay Packers when they went down 30-13 in their stadium, TCF Bank Stadium last week. But Minnesota's on a mission now, and I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to, have a good game here. I also feel Adrian Peterson, who's averaging an even 100 yards a game. But I think it was like 100.6 yards a game he was averaging. But I do know Atlanta's got a very stingy run defense that only allows like 87 or 88 yards a game or something like that. But that's going to be an interesting matchup. How will AP fare against that that run defense of Atlanta. I think he's going to fare quite well, considering he's indoors. It's in a dome. It's not in the cold or anything like that. And considering how terrible the Falcons have been since that 5-0 start, since the Saints knocked them off on the Thursday night in New Orleans, that's been pretty much it. So they've lost 4 of their last 5, and they really need to stop the bleeding, or else it's going to be, another one of those seasons for the Atlanta Falcons. And started off with such promise, and now what? That's all there is to it. So until I see better from the Atlanta Falcons, I cannot in good conscience go with them this week. I do believe I have the Minnesota Vikings in my pigskin, in our Strictly Sports Pigskin Pick'em League. But oh, by the way, Matt Ward is currently leading the way in that. So big ups to him. Yes, I have Minnesota winning this game, and I'm not changing my mind on that. The Minnesota Vikings are going to win this game. I strongly feel it. I'm going to go 28-20. That's going to be my final score. 28-20. The Minnesota Vikings over the Atlanta Falcons in the Georgia Dome. And all I can say is this for the Atlanta Falcons: shape up or ship out. That's all there is to it. They got to shape up in the worst way. And I think those 3 injuries are going to come back to haunt them. Even the kicker's hurt. Now that's hard times, Daddy. That's hard times. So 28-20, Minnesota wins. So with all that said, Michael Fletcher, the Minnesota Vikings against the Atlanta Falcons. Huge game in the NFC. Major playoff implications in the Georgia Dome here. So your thoughts on this big game in the NFC?
Yeah, and most definitely. And first off, hello everybody and welcome. You pointed out a good thing, and you made it very compelling, and that is that the injuries have really hurted Atlanta. And as you may know, Devontae Freeman was really one of their main guys. Now he's hurt. Then you lost one of your key wide receivers, Henderson. And the thing is, Roddy White has done absolutely nothing for Atlanta this season at all. But here's the one thing, and this is the one thing that you're talking about, Anthony. And, yes, the rushing game of Minnesota is awesome. They're the third-ranked rushing attack in all of the NFL. But here's the problem: they're going up against the number 1 rush defense in all of the National Football League. They average about 87.4 yards per game. Does the Atlanta Falcons? They are a little more vulnerable through the air. They do give up a chunk of yardage there. And even third downs, they actually give up a lot. At least 41% of the time, they shut a team down, which is 23rd. Where I think Matt Ryan's going to have a lot of problems in this game because of the fact that yes, their air attack is really good, but when it comes to third and they do put up a lot of points, at least 25 points per game, but you're going up against practically a top 10 defense. Number 10 in basically yards given up, number 7 in yards against, and not only that, but they go up against the team that gives up only 18 points per game, which is the third lowest in all of the NFL. 2 teams are actually better than Minnesota's defense right now. They do give up a chunk of yardage when it comes to the rush. They normally do surrender at least 110 yards per game. That's probably going to be a little bit of an Achilles heel for them. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is actually making to be a very compelling line, to say the very least. And once it's all said and done, I truly believe it, Anthony. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings as well. I do believe they're going to win it. They have not lost a back-to-back games all season long, and not only that, but Kyle Rudolph last week had 106 yards receiving, and that was the first time that somebody has had 100 yards receiving from a tight end since. Remember this name, Anthony? Vasante Shenko? He had 136 yards against, oh, by the way, the Atlanta Falcons, December 20th. December 21, 2008. Ain't that something? So with that said, yes, I agree. I'm going to say Minnesota wins it. It's going to be a close game, a tight game to say the very least. And now I pass it off to the third man of the crew who just showed up, Michael Bullock. You only just have to cover this game. Minnesota Vikings, Atlanta Falcons. Who you got, man?
All right, thank you very much, Michael Fletcher. Yes, this is Mike Bullock here for another edition of Strictly Sports NFL Friday. Good to be here with you guys, and of course, hopefully all of you had a very nice Thanksgiving Day yesterday and enjoyed all the turkey and all the trimmings and the pie and all that, and of course the football that was on yesterday. So, and of course. I know Fletcher wasn't on. I just want to wish him a very happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully you enjoyed your day yesterday, as did Anthony Florio. So wanted to pass that out to you. So yeah, as far as this game goes, the Minnesota Vikings and the Atlanta, the Minnesota Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, of course, Minnesota. Of course, they're coming off of a loss to the Green Bay Packers last week. And of course, I'm just trying to get it up again. Yeah, sorry about it. It's just a little bit acting up on me right now. Oh, there we go. So like I said, they're coming off of a loss to Green Bay. Where basically of course, where the Green Bay offense really went to work on the Green Bay defense, and of course the Minnesota's defense, well, they surrendered season high 30 points, while the offense was held to basically 13 points, and Adrian Peterson, he was held to only 45 yards rushing in that game. So yeah, but of course, thanks to the loss from the Green Bay Packers the Green Bay Packers losing to the Bears, so they're still in that race for that NFC North title. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes. And so they basically control their own destiny with 6 games left in the season. And of course, their season finale will be against Green Bay. So these next few games are critical for the Minnesota Vikings. And of course, Atlanta. What is going on with them? They were off to a 5-0 start, and they've now lost 3 in a row and 4 of their last 5, and so of course they're coming off of a loss to the Colts, where Matt Ryan threw 3 interceptions, and he's thrown 6 in the last 4 games. So there's a little concern when it comes to Matt Ryan. He needs to really get better. So basic, and of course now we found out that Devontae Freeman's now been ruled out of the game, so rookie Tavon Coleman's going to get the start. So, and of course, the last time these two teams met was, of course, on September 28th of last year, where Minnesota won that one, 41-28. But the thing is, the Falcons have won the last 2 that was played in Atlanta. So, but the thing is, I'm just not having that confidence now in Atlanta. So I think Minnesota's going to bounce back, and I think they'll win this one. My final score for me is, I'm going to go 28-24 is going to be my final score. I think Peterson's going to have a bounce back game, and I think Teddy Bridgewater will have a solid game. And so give me the Minnesota Vikings. So with that being said, Florio, let's move on to our next game.
Yep, and lucky for you, Bullet, that was our first game we just got into. So you Not too late there.
Yeah,
so
I really
yeah.
didn't miss anything.
No, no. But you will be leading off on our next matchup here. It's going to be the St. Louis Rams going up against the Cincinnati Bengals at Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati. Another Fox game. And calling this game for Fox will be Tom Brenneman with Charles Davis and Tony Siragusa. They will be in Cincinnati for this Rams-Bengals matchup. The Bengals, I should say, Cincinnati, 9 to 10.5 point favorites against the Rams, one of the big spreads of the week. And the series history favors the Cincinnati Bengals. They lead it 7-5. They've won the last 2 meetings. Last meeting was in 2011. That game was in St. Louis. The Bengals won that 20-13. Last meeting in Cincinnati was in 2007. That was another win by the Bengals. That was a 19-10 win. And the last time the Rams came out of Cincinnati with a win, you got to go all the way back to the greatest show on turf days, boys, 1999, when the Rams went into Cincinnati and beat up on the Bengals 38-10. That was back in the days of Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt. Everybody remembers them. Of course, that team went on to win the Super Bowl, that unforgettable Super Bowl against the Tennessee Titans, an all-time favorite Super Bowl of myself and Michael Fletcher. Well, all of us, but me and Fletcher especially, because we had a lot of fun calling that game. We had a lot of fun with that, and trust me, that final call was just pure perfection. That's all I can say on that. So that's all the schematics you need for that. So, Michael Bullock, St. Louis Rams against the Cincinnati Bengals. Who you got in this one?
Well, both teams definitely are coming. They're coming into this game with losing streaks of their own. Of course, the St. Louis Rams they've lost 3 in a row after going. Basically they were 4-3 before losing 3 in a row, and the Cincinnati Bengals. 2 losses in a row. Of course, Luke. They were undefeated, and then these last 2 games. Both of these games have been on national TV. Hasn't gone well for them. Losing 10-6 on Monday Night Football to Houston, and then last week losing 34 in a 34-31 shootout to the Arizona Cardinals, and in those 2 consecutive losses, let's just say the penalties. They've had 19 penalties for 178 losses. 178 yards. Well, for 178 yards in those losses. So Cincinnati really needs to cut down on those penalties. If they continue doing that, I don't know how they can bounce back. And of course, Andy Dalton, he's been sacked 8 times during the losing streak. And and the defense. Last week was not really good. In the first 9 games, they allowed a league low 16.9 points per game, but last week they surrendered 27 points in the second half to the Arizona Cardinals, and so they're definitely going to have to try to bounce back, and of course the Rams. They're going through some hard times of their own, especially after an incident that happened on Tuesday to one of their receivers, Stedman Bailey. And of course the big concern is at the quarterback position. Who's gonna get the start? Will it be Case Keenum? Will it be Nick Foles? I don't know. We're just gonna have to wait and see, because remember, Keenum left last week's game with a concussion, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But the one big star out of this whole thing is, of course, been Todd Gurley with what he's been able to do running the football. So, but because I think Cincinnati's a better team, I got them winning this one. I think they're finally going to end that 2-game losing streak. I think the final score for me, I think it's going to be 38. I'm going to go 38. Oh, actually, I'll go 41-17 is going to be my final score. I think Dalton will have a solid game. I think you'll also see some of AJ Green and Giovanni Bernard. Yeah, and of course, I think the defense will do a lot better than what they did last week. So definitely. I got Cincinnati winning this one, so Fletcher, I give it to you.
The thing is, Cincinnati right now is about 2 games up in the division, and they could really cement themselves not only as a AFC divisional champion, but a possible threat for the AFC. Um, but then again, the one thing we always talk about for Cincinnati, it's not what they do during these 1 o'clock games or 4 o'clock games. It's really the primetime games, Sunday night and Monday night. And if you remember, under when they do any of these games under the lights, Cincinnati chokes under the pressure. Um, the one thing you gotta really talk about with this thing is that yes, St. Louis kind of has been there. They're 4-6 in the season right now, and it looks like it is going to be Case Keenum as the starter. However, you do got Todd Gurley, you do got Tavon Austin, and that's one thing that we kind of have to worry about. But the problem is, passing wise, they are St. Louis is practically the worst in the NFL. 31st in total offense, 32nd in passing, that's the worst. The only saving grace they have is really their running game, where they average 126 yards. But even defensively, they're kind of a little bit middle of the road. So is Cincinnati, but I would trust Cincinnati's defense better than anything else. Plus, at home, they're 4-1. You know, at the confines of Cincinnati. There's really nothing more to say about this. Andy Dalton last week threw for 315 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. That's the 5th time in his career he's done that. The first time this season where he's thrown over 300 yards plus and has actually had multiple touchdowns, no INTs. However, the Bengals are 2-3 when he does that. I do believe when you have a consistent running game, you know, with Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard, I think they'll have at least a decent running game. I think if you want something, you might want him to throw maybe 250, 275 yards. You don't need a 300-yard day from Andy Dalton. A.J. Green will have a good game. Tyler Eifert will have a good game. There's too many weapons on Cincinnati's side. They win this game, no doubt in my mind. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals knocking off the St. Louis Rams. Anthony Florio, it is yours.
Yeah, I got the Cincinnati Bengals winning this one as well. I mean, it's not a primetime game, so they got that going for them. The reason why they've lost 2 in a row is because they were primetime games. I mean, they lose that Monday night game at home to Houston. Last week was a primetime game against the Arizona Cardinals. They lose that. And now they have an early game, so this should fare well for them. Todd Gurley for the St. Louis Rams, you know, at one time he was a house of fire. I mean, he was averaging about 130, 140 yards a game. And over the last few games, he's been averaging only about 66 or 67. So that's not really going to get it done. And plus, Tyler Eifert for the Cincinnati Bengals leads, I believe he leads all tight ends with 11 receiving touchdowns. So I'm expecting another monster game from him, no doubt about it. My old friend from Notre Dame. The receiving, A.J. Green, he's going to go off. Andy Dalton's going to go off. Hill and Bernard on the running game, they'll go off. Nick Foles, as of now, is being reported as the starter for the St. Louis Rams. Case Keenum, undergoing concussion protocol. However, if Keenum's condition improves in time, Rams head coach Jeff Fisher reportedly saying that Keenum would get the start only if his condition improves. But if not, then it will be Nick Foles to go against Cincinnati on Sunday and Paul Brown. But it doesn't matter if it's Keenum or Foles. The Bengals are winning this thing anyway. This is going to be a major bounce back for Cincinnati. And I say they win this one by a final count of 34-17. And it's one of my locks of the week. So give me the Cincinnati Bengals in this game by the final count of 34-17. So with that said, we're just going to move on. We'll move on to our next game here on NFL Friday, and it's going to be another Fox game and another interconference matchup. The New Orleans Saints going up against the Houston Texans. NRG Reliance Stadium in Houston. It's going to be Joe Davis along with David Deal and Christina Pink. They will be in Houston for this game. The spread favors, I do believe, the New Orleans Saints, I want to say. 3-point spread in favor of New Orleans. I know the spread is a 3-point spread, so it's got to be for New Orleans. And,
You're wrong. It's actually Houston.
It is Houston. Okay. Yeah, the way they have this positioned, it's tough to tell who the favorite is, but I don't know if it's on the upper side or the lower side. Yeah, it is on the lower side. Okay, it is Houston by 3. Yeah, these spreads are just so tough to read sometimes, but it is 3-point spread in favor of the Houston Texans. Series history, not much of one, but New Orleans leads it only by a count of 2-1. Their last meeting, who will ever forget their last meeting? I know Michael Fletcher won't forget their last meeting because he covered this one. The Saints in a shootout over the Houston Texans, 40-33 in 2011. That was in the Superdome. I know Fletcher won't ever forget that. I know that's one of his all-time favorite games that he's covered, even though it wasn't that defensive battle he loves so much. But I know once in a while he'll take a shootout, and he got one in the Superdome in 2011. 40-33 was that score. That was in week 3 of that season. The only other meeting in Houston they had was in 2007, and that was won by Houston. Houston won that 23-10, and their first meeting was in 2003. The Saints won that 31-10 in New Orleans. So basically, every meeting has gone to the home team, and Houston's never won in New Orleans, and New Orleans has never won in Houston. So that's it. So it's 2-1 in favor of the New Orleans Saints. So Michael Fletcher, you remember these two teams when they met their last meeting in 2011, that wild shootout in the Superdome, where the Saints won 40-33 in week 3 of that year. But are we going to have anything like that this time around, or is it going to be, or is it going to go completely different? New Orleans and Houston, two teams, right, you want to say right around the thick of the playoff race in both conferences, right?
Without a doubt, and for Houston, you're actually eyeing a divisional title right now, believe it or not, because of how bad the AFC South has been. They are actually in striking distance of the division title. To be 5-5 where they are right now, they're in second place in the division. A lot of people would be thinking there's no way that they should be in this. But they are. They're definitely in the mix, and you have to consider it definitely a major coup for them, just to go right into the game. Brian Hoyer does has a concussion. He's probable right now. Again, another one that's going through the concussion protocol. Nate Washington, one of their top wide receivers, is actually probable as well with a hip injury. Actually just got listed today. I want to let you guys know, Mark Ingram, he's probable with a shoulder injury. Willie Snead, probable as well with the knee. They actually just announced that Marcus Colston was listed day to day with the shoulder, and actually just got a word today, and I don't know if you guys know about this, but Drew Brees has been listed in the injury report, but he's only listed day to day with a right shoulder. As far as the matchup goes, this is an exciting matchup to say the very least, especially when you got basically a top 5 offensive team. With the New Orleans Saints, they average almost 414 yards per game. They throw about Drew Brees alone throws for 313 yards, which is the second highest total in the NFL this season. They average about 25 points per game, which is 7th highest, and they are the number 1 team in third down conversions in the NFL. They convert third downs at 47% of the clip. Defensively, this is where New Orleans is in big trouble. They are the worst in the NFL when it comes to their defense. That's why Rob Ryan got fired, because they surrender over 424 total offense, 293 yards alone in passing, 131 in rushing. That basically makes you the worst in all of the NFL, and they also give up a league high 31 points per game, so they can get scored on, they can get torched defensively than anything else. And the one thing is for Houston, they're a top 10 defense. They're ranked 9th. They give up only 333 yards per game. They're number 5 in passing. They only surrender 219 yards. Their only Achilles heel is that they're rushing. They do give up a lot of yards, but they also are the number 1 team in total defense. Their conversion rate, or they surrender 26.4% of the time, where a team ends up getting in the first down. So, I mean, think about that. Every 3 out of 4 times, they actually force a 3 and out. Maybe one time you can actually sneak and get a first down, but your 3 out of 4 times you actually will fall, and well, that's all that you got to know about that. So, is this going to be an exciting game? Yes, I think you're going to get a lot of good performances, but I gotta go with Houston. Houston's at home. I love the defense of the Texans, especially with J.J. Watt, former Defensive Player of the Year, and not only that, but I mean, Drew Brees have been good, but when he's outside, when he gets out of the Superdome, he looks very human. He looks very pedestrian. Where when he's inside the dome, he is like he's like the greatest thing in the world. So there's really nothing more to say. My prediction is the Houston Texans will beat the New Orleans Saints. My final score, it ain't gonna be as high as the 40-33, but it's gonna come pretty close. My prediction is I got it 31-21. I think Houston will win it. Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I got the Houston Texans winning as well. I mean, I don't have any confidence in New Orleans right now. I mean, last time we saw them on the road, well, they were getting their brains beat out by the Washington Redskins of all teams. I mean, Washington lit them up for 47, so who knows what they're going to do in Houston against the Texans. I mean, yes, Hoyer is battling concussion symptoms. We'll see how he fares, and we'll go from there. And the running game, I mean, we'll see how that goes. The receiving corps, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins has just been unbelievable. The Texans, coming off of a big win against the Jets a week ago, and of course, I believe that bad game against the Redskins was the last time we saw New Orleans. So, but with the game being in Houston, I mean, you have to go with the Texans. I mean, the Texans have been playing some damn good football as of right now. I mean, ever since J.J. Watt, fired them up with that pregame speech in Cincinnati a few Mondays ago, I mean, that team's been playing at a whole new level. And with how average and mediocre the AFC South is, like Fletcher said, I mean, Houston could end up sliding in and come in, and I'm going to steal one of his favorite expressions from Gorilla Monsoon. They could literally come in through the back door and literally steal this thing. And I wouldn't be surprised, to say the very least. But we'll get to Indianapolis in just a moment. They're going to be our next game in just a minute. But other than that, New Orleans will bring it to them. There's no question about it. I mean, New Orleans will give Houston some fits, but the way DeAndre Hopkins has been playing right now, he's basically been the heart and soul of that team right now. And of course, J.J. Watt in that defense, I think they'll get to Drew Brees and they'll fluster him a little bit. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Houston Texans to win this one as well. I say final here. I am going to go 28-24. the Houston Texans over the New Orleans Saints at NRG, formerly Reliant Stadium in Houston. So another big win for the Houston Texans, and the New Orleans Saints, well, their playoff hopes will take another big hit. But if they win here, it'll definitely help the cause. But I wouldn't be surprised if New Orleans wins, but honestly, I just think Houston's that much better right now. So 28-24, Houston wins. So Michael Bullock, New Orleans Saints against the Houston Texans. Who you like in this one?
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans Saints, I mean, I just don't have any confidence in them, especially with the way their defense is. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they got rid of Rob Ryan. So, yeah, I mean, Houston, I mean, what can you say about them? I mean, they're on a 3-game winning streak right now, and they're in a tie atop the AFC South. So, I mean, that's just how impressive I've been with them. And I mean, the defense has really stepped up, especially J.J. Watt. And the way they held down the New York Jets last week to 267 yards of offense. I mean, that's how good their defense has been. I mean, during that streak, J.J. Watt has totaled 7.5 of his league-leading 11.5 sacks during the last 4 games. So, yeah, and DeAndre Hopkins, like you said, he's just been on an absolute roll. So, yeah, so basically now it looks like Brian Hoyer's going to be back, and we'll wait and see how he does. But he's got nothing to worry about. I mean, he's got DeAndre Hopkins to help him out. So, and yeah, I mean, Drew Brees, I mean, with him being on the injury report now, I mean, that's got to be some concern for them in that offense. And since the game is in Houston, I got to go with the Texans to win this one. I'm gonna go 27-21 is gonna be my final score. So yeah, so there's really nothing else for me to say except let's move on to our next game, Florio.
Yes, and it is yet another Fox game here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Indianapolis Colts, Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. The legendary Dick Stockton will be there along with another legend, Matt Millen. Dick Stockton and Matt Millen, along with Peter Schrager, they will be in Indianapolis for this Buccaneers-Colts matchup. The spread favoring the Indianapolis Colts by a 2.5 to 3 point count, which I'm not surprised to say the least. The spread, the series history, that favors the Indianapolis Colts. Colts lead the all-time series 7-5. Last meeting was in 2011. That was in Tampa Bay at Raymond James Stadium. The Buccaneers won that game by a score of 24-17. Last meeting in Indianapolis was in 2007. The Colts won that game 33-14. And the last time the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went into Indianapolis and stole one, got to go all the way back to 1997. And the Buccaneers won that one 31-28. We all remember that's back when they had Trent Dilfer and Mike Allstott leading the way for that team. But so those are all the schematics you need for that. How about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, guys? I mean, if you can believe it, they're actually in the hunt. I mean, here's a team that on opening day gets beaten down by the Tennessee Titans and Marcus Mariota. I mean, they've actually been playing some good ball as of late, especially Jameis Winston. And there is something you might want to take into consideration here, guys. Jameis Winston on the road in road starts this year has 10 touchdown passes, only 1 interception, and a quarterback rating of 82.9. Whereas at home at Raymond James Stadium, well, not so much, not so good. 5 touchdown passes, 8 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 34.2. Compare and contrast those numbers, if you will. It's needless to say, Jameis Winston is a much better quarterback on the road than he is at home. And guess what? They're on the road. They're in Indianapolis. So there is a very good chance, there is a possibility, Tampa Bay can go in there and steal this one, especially with how the Indianapolis Colts have been playing lately. Even though Indy picked up a humongous win in the Georgia Dome a week ago, beating the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, where Hasselbeck had a solid game and everything else, but I do have a disconcerting stat about the Indianapolis Colts, guys. Do you know how many games it's been since the Colts have had a 100-yard rusher on their own team? 44. They have not had a 100-yard rusher in 44 consecutive games. The longest such streak since the Cincinnati Bengals went from 1992 through 1997 without having a 100-yard rusher on their team. Very disconcerting, to say the very least. And you would think a running back with the body of work of Frank Gore, you would think Frank Gore would have had at least a few 100-yard games. Nope. Not one. That just goes to show you, friends, that Frank Gore is not getting any younger. Of course, Hasselbeck will be starting again. Of course, we all know Andrew Luck out indefinitely with that lacerated kidney he suffered in that thrilling win against the Denver Broncos. So Hasselbeck will be starting again. Of course, you still got Andre Johnson in there. You still got T.Y. Hilton. You still got that outstanding receiving core that also has Kobe Fleener and Dante Moncrief and Dwayne Allen. The running attack with Frank Gore. I don't know if this will be the game where the Colts will finally get that 100-yard rusher they've been looking for. I mean, 44 consecutive games without one. Like I said, that's very disturbing to me, especially with a guy that has the caliber and body of work that Frank Gore had, especially all those great years he had in San Francisco. For Tampa Bay, of course, like I said, Jameis Winston, a much better quarterback on the road than at home. 10 TD passes, only one pick, and a QB rating of just about 83. So that's very good for Jameis Winston. And I say he's going to have another solid game, considering they're on the road. And would I be surprised if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went into Indianapolis and stole one? No, I would not. I actually would not, because of how well they've been playing lately, especially after that dominating performance against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia a week ago when Jameis Winston threw 5 touchdown passes. But the thing is, I mean, I'm really loving their body of work right now. They're actually in consideration for the Strictly Sports NFL Power Rankings later on, believe it or not. You just might have them in there by the time we get there. But for right now, I don't have them winning this game. Like I said, would I be surprised if they won? No, I wouldn't. But I just think the Indianapolis Colts are the better team right now, and especially after coming off that huge win against Atlanta. And they also beat Denver recently, so I got to go with the Indianapolis Colts in this one. I'm going to take a chance here, and I'm going to go with the Colts. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, whatever. So give me the Indianapolis Colts to win this one. I say the final score is going to be 30-27. The Indianapolis Colts over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Should be a very good game. Definitely looking forward to seeing how this one goes down at Lucas Oil Stadium. So 30-27, Indianapolis wins. So Michael Bullock, going into the season, you would have thought a game of this magnitude would be like one of those meh games, but in the blink of an eye, this game went from a meh game to one of those sleeper / on the verge of headline status games, has it not?
Yeah, I mean, when you first look at the schedule, and you're thinking, yeah, that's an easy win there for Indianapolis, but not so fast, my friend. I mean, Tampa Bay. I mean, they've won 2 in a row lately. I mean, and they're at an even 500. I mean, I've just been impressed with them as of late. I mean, and especially. I mean, it's just so impressive to see what they did, and of course, Doug Martin, who, I mean, was responsible for Tampa Bay's win last week, ran for a season-high 235 yards. So, and he is 59 yards shy of 1,000 yards for the season, and yeah. So, and of course, the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, of course, with that statement win over the Falcons last week, of course, Matt Hasselbeck's still in there for Andrew Luck with the lacerated kidney and torn abdomen muscle. So yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in this game. But either way, I mean, and the thing is, like you just said, I mean, Frank Gore hasn't had a 100-yard game with the Colts, and the other thing is the Colts, they've committed a league high 22 turnovers, but and 12 of the 22 are, of course, are by Andrew Luck, and of course, and the thing is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have forced 20 turnovers, and that's a tie for fourth in the National Football League. So, and the other thing is, the Colts don't have a winning record at home, and so this is a tough one to call. And you know what? I'm going to shock some people. I'm actually going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this one. I mean, I'm just not really sold on the Colts. I mean, and the reason why is, like I mentioned, the turnovers for the Colts, and Tampa Bay is good at I mean, they're in the top 5 in the NFL in creating turnovers. So I think it's because of that defense, the way they've been creating those turnovers. I think they'll play a key role here, and I think Jameis Winston, I think he'll have a solid game, and I think the Colts are going to have a tough time controlling Doug Martin. So my final score is Tampa Bay 28, Indianapolis 24. So yeah, I got Tampa Bay winning this one. So Fletcher, I give it to you.
Wow. Oh boy. Now I'm stuck. Who do I go with? Do I go with Anthony Florio and go with the Indianapolis Colts? Or do I side with Michael Bullock, go guts ball, pull up and call for the upset and say Tampa? Well, I'm going with Michael Bullock. I'm going to say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Anthony, you said it best. Because of what Jameis Winston does outside of playing in Raymond James Stadium, and on top of that, lately, I kind of believe that, off the numbers actually do not lie. Tampa is actually ranked number 8 in total offense, and not only that, but they got the second best running attack. And remember, a couple of weeks ago, Doug Martin went crazy. He ran for over 240 yards, like 200 plus, a couple of weeks ago. And I gotta say, the one good thing, he's going up against a defense that is 23rd in the league. They give up over 113 yards per game, and then on top of that, the passing defense of Indy, the secondary, is basically the 29th, basically the third worst defense in all of the NFL. Tampa has an okay defense. They're middle of the road. They're outside the top 15. They're 13th. And not only that, but their offense, they normally average about 370 yards total offense. I'm sorry, Anthony, I must disagree with you. And despite Tampa having a 3-2 road record, Indy's not good at home. They have a losing record this year. They're 2-3. So I'm actually gonna go with Michael Bullock. I gotta agree. Yeah, it's only a 3-point spread, but I don't really have faith in him. I don't have faith. It doesn't matter if it was with Matt Hasselbeck or if it's with or if it would have been with Andrew Luck, I have no faith in the Indianapolis Colts at all. Jameis Winston and Doug Martin alone could just destroy and go nuts. And if they do, this game's over. If Mike Evans gets hot, forget it. That's a three-headed monster. You're not stopping that. I'm sorry, Anthony. We all do respect, and I know this looks like an easy. It's not an easy game, and you're like, would you be surprised if Tampa wins? No, and would we be surprised if Indy won? No, but the way I see it, yes, Indy has had some lucky breaks. I think we can say that, but I don't know. Something just tells me go with the upset. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going and I'm saying that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is going to go into Lucas Oil Stadium and knock off the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. So with that said, Anthony, let's move on to the next game.
And we finally move on to a CBS game here for a change. The San Diego Chargers going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This game will be at Everbank Field in Jacksonville. Spiro Dedes and Solomon Wilcots on the call for CBS. The spread favoring the Jacksonville Jaguars, believe it or not. Yes, Jacksonville a 4 to 5 point favorite against the San Diego Chargers, which is I'm honestly not surprised by this, actually, considering how piss poor the Chargers have been lately. However, the San Diego Chargers do lead the all-time series, though, 5-2. Matter of fact, the Chargers have won four consecutive meetings against the Jaguars, including last year's meeting in San Diego. That was a 33-14 win for the Chargers. The Chargers also won the last meeting in Jacksonville, which was the year before, 2013. That was a 24-6 win for San Diego. And then in 2011, San Diego won that game, also in Jacksonville, 38-14. And then San Diego beat up on Jacksonville in 2010. That was a 38-13 beatdown. The last time the Jaguars beat the Chargers, you got to go back to 2007. That was a 24-17 win in Jacksonville. So those are all the schematics here. Now, Michael Bullock, as I give this to you, for you to lead off, who would have thought going into this game that the Jacksonville Jaguars would not only have the better record, but would also be a pretty decent favorite against a team that has once been one of the cornerstones of the AFC, a main event mafia team, if you will, in the San Diego Chargers. I mean, the Jaguars are actually favored here. What do you think about that?
Going into this season, if you told me about this game being on the schedule, I would have said San Diego, but San Diego, what the heck is going on with them? 2-8 on the season. The thing is, they've lost 6 in a row. For a team that used to be so good, you have to go back to 2006. Wasn't that long ago, boys, where San Diego had the best record in the National Football League. And then you would ask me a few years later, and they'd be 2-8. It's just shocking. And the Jaguars, they've been playing well as of late. They've won 2 in a row and 3 of their last 4, and they're only 1 game back of Houston and Indianapolis for the AFC South. What? You're telling me Jacksonville may have a chance to win this division? If you asked me that before, if you asked me that going into the season, I would have said you guys are absolutely nuts. But that's the way it is. Especially coming off of a 19-13 win over Tennessee, but then again, Tennessee hasn't been playing that well. But I like what I've seen from Blake Bortles, who's having a pretty good year, if I'm going to be quite honest here. And I also like what I've seen, of course, from especially with the defense, especially led by Paul Posluszny and Devon House and Andre Branch. And And going back to the offense, I mean, Julius Thomas is doing really well as well, and yeah, and so basically, I mean, and here's the funny thing. I mean, Philip Rivers, he's having a really good season, but it's just his defense hasn't been able to live up to the standards. So I think because of that, I'm actually going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat San Diego. I'm going to say that my final score for me is going to be, I'm going to say 27-17 is going to be my final score. I think Bortles will have a solid game. I think you'll also see some of Julius Thomas, and I think the defense with Puslesny and Devon House and Andre Branch, I think they'll help contain the San Diego offense and keep that losing streak going. So give me the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this one. So with that being said, Fletch, your thoughts on this game? And I mean, and I'll ask you this: going into this, I mean, you would have said, I mean, when you looked at the schedule going into the season, you would have said that San Diego would be all over Jacksonville.
You would, but that's the thing. And I think the best way to say it is this. Remember what Chris Berman always says on NFL, well, he used to say on NFL primetime,
Because
but now,
that's why they play the game.
well, I was going to do that, but you stole the words right out of my mouth, Bullock. I was going to say it, but that's okay. It's all right. Like you said, this is what the NFL is all about. There's so much parity this year that a team that a lot of people think, wasn't going to be that great is now better now than it was a year ago. So at the end of the day, you got to deal with what you got. You got to handle with what you got to do. And yeah, what's been the downfall for San Diego? Some bad luck, some bad juju, whatever you want to call it. Not only that, but you also got to say it was also, let's be realistic here, it was also in the realm that, well, it was it was bad luck. I mean, let's be realistic. It was definitely a tough situation by a good team, and on top of that, injuries have abound that San Diego couldn't muster to. So, their wide receiving core has been very bare. They lost Keenan Allen to injury. They lost a lot of key players to injuries. So, I mean, yeah. And that's why Jacksonville is favored. Now, would I say that San Diego can win this game? Absolutely. You got Philip Rivers, and Philip Rivers is one of the top quarterbacks in the game. At least in my eyes, I would rank him at least in the top 10 as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL today. He's probably on the lower tier of the top 10, but I would put him in. I would put him in there. What he has done for San Diego in his days of being there has been very good. I mean, he's done a great job playing for the San Diego Chargers. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to handle your business. You got to do what you got to do. But you're going from west to east, never easy, jet lag, whatever you want to call it. So, at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the San Diego Chargers. It's going to be close, but I'm going to say 24-17. Jacksonville wins. Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah, I mean, small world after all, boys, but I definitely am going to make this unanimous. I, too, have the Jacksonville Jaguars going over in this one, and why not? I mean, I've loved Blake Bortles' body of work very much so that he's now on my fantasy team because I had a quarterback situation, so I figured he was the best one that I could get, so hopefully he won't let me down on Sunday, and I don't think he will because, let's face it, that Charger pass defense is atrocious. Let's not kid ourselves. So I'm expecting Bortles to have a huge game here, as well as his number one target, Allen Hurns, and we can't forget about Allen Robinson either. And then you also have that that running attack with T.J. Yeldon and everybody else. So yeah. And Mr. Bullock mentioned my old friend from Buffalo, Paul Posluszny. I mean, the heart and soul of that defense. I think he's definitely him in that defense will get to Phillip Rivers at times, frustrate him a little bit. The running game's been god awful. Everybody knows that. Melvin Gordon has done nothing. I mean, you got a damn good receiving core. Let's not forget about that. Their receiving core is great. Antonio Gates and those guys, but and Malcolm Floyd, but their number one target, they lost. They lost for the year, Keenan Allen. I mean, he was their go-to on the receiving core, but without him, they've looked very lackadaisical, to say the very least. But even though I expect a solid game from Rivers, it's just not going to be enough to match the firepower of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yep, I too am gonna do it. The Jacksonville Jaguars will win this game. I agree with that. Final score, I think it's going to be a little more higher scoring this time around. I'm going to say 31-24. That's going to be my final score. 31-24. The Jacksonville Jaguars defeat the San Diego Chargers at Everbank Field. And they're going to keep pace in that AFC South Division race. What? Did I just say that? Wow. Unbelievable. If they win this division, oh my goodness. I mean, like I said, the three of us are going to be prepared to eat that unbelievably humongous slice of humble pie, and we're going to like it because we all thought nothing of this team, but just goes to show you, like they always used to say in the old WWE days, anything can happen. So, oh man, and it can. So, all right. With that said, we're just going to move on to our next game, and now we're going to start getting into the meat of the schedule now. This is where we're going to start to get some headline matchups. And our first such matchup and it will be on the CBS side once again. This is a game I definitely will have a major vested interest in. The Buffalo Bills going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Of course, this game on CBS. Calling this game for CBS is going to be Kevin Harlan along with Rich Gannon. They're going to be in Kansas City for this battle of two. This battle of two proverbial playoff contenders in the AFC. Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon, they'll be in Arrowhead for this matchup. And the spread favors the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't say I'm surprised by that spread. 6 to 7 point spread for the Kansas City Chiefs. And the series history favors the Buffalo Bills, 23-19 with one tie. And 23-19 with a tie, and that one tie came all the way back in 1963. That was a 27-all tie in Buffalo. But the Chiefs have won the last two meetings, but the thing is they were both in Buffalo. That was last year. Kansas City went into Buffalo and stole one 17-13. As they did the year before in 2013, the Chiefs also won in Buffalo 23-13. Last meeting in Kansas City was in 2011. And the Buffalo Bills absolutely holiday hammed the Kansas City Chiefs that day, 41-7. Last time the Chiefs won at home against Buffalo, the year before that, 2010. That was a 13-10 overtime win in Kansas City. So Michael Fletcher's going to start this one off, and I'll tell you what, Fletch, as soon as you're done, I got a couple of interesting stats, one for each team that you're going to be that you're going to like. So Michael Fletcher, I ask you. The Buffalo Bills against the Kansas City Chiefs, that raucous crowd at Arrowhead, definitely one of the headline games of the week on our side of the ball. So I ask you this. Who you got in this one, Buffalo or KC?
Well, the thing is that this is going to be a tough game. Two very good running attacks, Buffalo and Kansas City has definitely better defenses, to say the very least. Kansas City is actually a top 10 defense. Buffalo, not really. They're really good against the run, but not against the pass. Kansas City is definitely one of the top teams. They don't surrender that many points. Rushing yards, they shut you down pretty good. Total offense, they're like I said, top 10 defense at all. And plus, like you said, Anthony, the last two games, Kansas City have won somewhat comfortably. But not only that, but Kansas City's been so good. Kansas City has looked a lot better. Alex Smith, he's just a ring general. He's not going to beat you. He's not going to overwhelm you. He's not that flashy, but he is good. He's consistent. 2,426 yards, 10 touchdowns, 3 INTs. Tyrod Taylor, he's been all right. I'm not going to say he's been great. He's been okay. 1,669 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 INTs. LaShawn McCoy has over 610 yards rushing with 3 touchdowns this season. And Charkendrick West, who's now taking over the running back duties, he's got 373 yards and 3 touchdowns. The one Achilles heel of Kansas City, they got no wide receivers. A lot of their times their dominating is through basically giving it to the tight end, giving it to their running backs. There was a time where Kansas City didn't have a wide receiving touchdown for a number of games, and it seems like that's been the trend again, to say the very least. Travis Kelce, who's a tight end, he's got 620 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's the most. The one guy you got to watch out for Buffalo, Anthony, you already know his name, Sammy Watkins. But you also got to watch out for Hogan as well, because Hogan absolutely went bonkers against the New England Patriots in a losing effort. But he was a lot better than anything else. And the thing is that normally when you lose a game like they did last week, normally you're thinking, okay, this was expected, we'll see what happens here, and blah, 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 blah. But let me tell you, man, Kansas City is on a roll. They've won 4 out of the last 5 games. They've won 4 in a row. And after they absolutely embarrassed, and I mean straight up humiliated, San Diego on the road, I mean, think about this. Look at their last 4 victories. 23-13 over the Pittsburgh Steelers, 45-10 over 45-10 over the Detroit Lions. Those were both at home. Then they went into Denver in Mile High, 29-13. Then went to San Diego and blew them out, 33-3. I don't know, guys. If the record was a little better, I would say power rank worthy. I would agree with that. I'm going to go with Kansas City in this one, 28-21. I think they'll beat the Buffalo Bills. Sorry, Anthony. But I think it's going to be a good game, a compelling game. But the defense of KC is just too good, too strong. And like I said, I think they'll be able to keep LaShawn McCoy, keep Tyrod Taylor in check enough. And I think Kansas City will win the day, because I think what Alex Smith is going to do is he's going to play a smart game. He's not going to beat you deep. He's not going to beat you with his arm. He's going to throw loaded intermediate passes, use West as a nice little buffer. He's going to throw it to Kelce. I think a couple of wide receivers will get a couple of the passes, but not much. So I think it's going to be a consistent victory for the Kansas City Chiefs. And plus, you're going into, in my opinion, the loudest stadium of the NFL, an Arrowhead. Yeah, you're not coming out of there alive. KC wins. Anthony, go.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go with Buffalo, I do, but not in good conscience. I can't. I too have Kansas City winning this game as well, for these couple of reasons. The Buffalo Bills, as of now, have lost 5 consecutive games against AFC West opponents. That's not going to help matters. And Kansas City is an AFC West opponent. Need I say more? Since this unbelievable roll that the Kansas City Chiefs have been on, they have been averaging 32.5 points a game, which is far and away the best in the league right now. So how can you not go with Kansas City in this game? I mean, Tyrod Taylor looked a little shaky against the Patriots on Monday night. I mean, I'll give my guys credit. They hung in there. They gave the Patriots fits just like they did in Week 2 in Buffalo. Only difference was the Week 2 game in Buffalo was a damn near 5-star shootout. This time around, it was a little more on the lower scoring side, but yet again, New England found a way to win, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Taylor should have an okay game. Shady McCoy should be all right. The receiving core, Sammy Watkins and Chris Hogan, I think they'll be fine. But just KC's just too good right now. I mean, Alex Smith's playing some damn good ball right now. Sharkandrick West on the running attack, no doubt about that. Travis Kelce and Jeremy Maclin in that receiving core, and of course that defense is absolutely going to punish Tyrod Taylor. No question about that. And fluster Shady in the running attacks. So that's all there is to say about that. Buffalo will give them some fits, though. I will give them that. But at the end, though, Kansas City Chiefs are just playing too damn good right now. As of right now, another team on the verge of power rankings. Will they be there? We'll find out. I think they have a damn good case to be there, though. That's all I can say, especially with how well they've been playing. So I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win as well. I will say the final score will be, I'm going to go 28-21. 28-21, the Kansas City Chiefs over the Buffalo Bills in what should be one of the top games of the week for sure, especially in that wild and crazy atmosphere of Arrowhead. So I wish we were getting this game. We're not, but it is what it is. So with that said, Michael Bullock, Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead. Who you got in this one?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Kansas City. I mean, they've been on a roll. They've won 4 in a row, and they'll be looking to make it 5 in a row, and they've all of a sudden become a contender for a playoff spot. Maybe not in the AFC West, maybe somewhere in the wild card, and yeah, what can you say? It's just they've been unbelievable as of late, and Buffalo. They suffered a tough, and of course first off last week for Kansas City. They blew out San Diego 33-3, and they've allowed fewer than 300 yards for a third consecutive game with a season low 201, and they also got a defensive touchdown. And the thing about Alex Smith, he hasn't thrown an interception in a franchise record 253 pass attempts. So yeah, that's just been impressive when it comes to them. So, and the defense has been, like I said, the defense has been playing really good. And of course the Bills, they hung in there with the Patriots on Monday night. Of course, losing them 20-13, but yeah, Tyrod Taylor didn't play well. He did. He is going to play, but he does have a hurt shoulder. But we'll see how he is. LaShawn McCoy. He's averaged 126.3 total yards and has scored twice in the last 4 games. But the thing is, when it comes to that Kansas City defense, they held its last 3 opponents to a combined 202 rushing yards. So, and the thing is, defensively, they're not going to have. I heard that Mario Williams is out of the game. Same thing with Kyle Williams and yeah, so the defense is definitely going to take a hit. So, and the thing is, it's in Kansas City, like you said, and it's loud there. Yeah, good luck to any visiting team who has to go in there and go into Arrowhead and have to face that tough crowd. I got Kansas City winning this one as well, and I'm going to go 31-24 is going to be my final score. So with that being said, Florio, let's move on to our next game.
We go from a game that I have the most vested interest in to a game that Michael Fletcher will have the most vested interest in. His Miami Dolphins going up against the New York Jets, MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. That's where this game will be. Iron Eagle, Dan Fouts, Evan Washburn, on the call from MetLife. 3.5 to 4 points is the spread in favor of the New York Jets. The Jets are favored by 3.5 to 4 to win. Series history favors the New York Jets 51 to 46 with one tie. That tie was back in 1981, a 28 to 28 tie in Miami. Now here's an interesting little footnote here, guys. Each of the last 3 years, 2014, 2013, and 2012, the Jets and the Dolphins have split and have also split on each other's home field, which means the Dolphins have won in New York the last 3 years, and the Jets have won in Miami the last 3 years. This game's in New York, so not only have the Dolphins won the last 3 meetings in New York, they've actually won. They've won 3 in a row, and I believe 5 out of the last 6. So that's very encouraging for Michael Fletcher. However, the last Jet win in New York was in 2011. That was a 24-6 win for the Jets against the Dolphins at home. But every year, each of the last 3 years, 12 to 14, the Miami Dolphins have gone into MetLife Stadium and come out of there with a win. A 30-9 win in 2012, a 23-3 win in 2013, and a 16-13 win last year. So the Dolphins have owned MetLife the last 3 years. Do they make that 4 in a row? Or will the Jets finally stop the bleeding at home against the Dolphins? Well, I really don't know. I mean, yes, indeed. So let's see. Jets, last time we saw them, they lost to the Houston Texans at NRG Reliance Stadium, like I mentioned earlier. The Dolphins, well, so much for the whole Dan Campbell experiment. I mean, they were doing well at first, but unfortunately, they had. I mean, yeah, they got that nice win in Philadelphia some time ago, but last time we saw them, they lost at home. The Dallas Cowboys. That was a 24-14 victory. That was the return of Tony Romo, the short-lived return of Tony Romo, I should say. But yeah, Dolphins have struggled. I'm not going to lie. The Jets have been no better, but to be quite honest with you, it's tough to call here. Honestly, I really don't know who will win this game, but I will take a chance. And I'm sorry, Fletch, but I got to go with the Jets in this one. I mean, I think the Jets will stop the bleeding at home against the Dolphins. I know the Dolphins have won the last 3 meetings at MetLife. I get that, but I just think your team's a mess right now. With all due respect, they're not playing well right now. I have not liked their body of work. They were lucky to win that game in Philadelphia, but it is what it is there. But the Jets, I had a stat about them, but I forgot my train of thought. But I do like the Jets in this one. I do think Fitzpatrick will have a solid game. I do think Chris Ivory in the running game should get going, and Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall on the receiving core. And I know Darrelle Revis. I know Revis will not be playing in this game. I understand that, but they still got a great defense anyway. So, and even though I think Tannehill will have a solid game, and Lamar Miller in the running game, and Rashard Matthews in the receiving core, I just think the Jets will have just enough in the tank to pull it out. So I'm going to go with the New York Jets to win this game. I say final score will be 20-17, the New York Jets over the Miami Dolphins at MetLife Stadium. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So Michael Bullock, the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets, this pretty good. It's a pretty decent game in the AFC East. Who do you like in this one? Do you like the Dolphins to make it 4 in a row at MetLife, or do you think the Jets will finally stop the bleeding at home against the Dolphins and beat the Dolphins at home for the first time since 2011? Michael Bullock, your thoughts? Dolphins, Jets.
Yeah, when it comes to this game, I mean, like you said, of course, the Jets, of course, they're gonna try to bounce back from that 24-17 loss to Houston, and yeah, of course, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, what can you say? I mean, he's been playing. I mean, of course, he's still playing under that injured thumb that he had. But the thing is, over the last 2 games, I mean, he only has a 46.6 completion percentage, 409 yards with 4 interceptions over the last 2 games. So, and 2 of the interceptions that come against the Texans that ended the Jets' last 2 drives. And so, yeah, I mean, he hasn't been playing well as of late. And the thing is, I mean, Chris Ivory, who was really good running the football, but over the last 5 games, I mean, he's only had 219 total yards on the ground. That's averaging about 2.7 yards per carry, and only a couple of touchdowns. And in the first 4 games, I mean, in his first 4 games, he had 460 yards, averaging 5.5 yards, while scoring 4 times, which included, obviously, a season-high 166 yards on 29 carries against the Dolphins in Miami. So, I mean, yeah, the Jets are going to be without Darrelle Revis in this game, but even with that, they still have a really good defense. And, I mean, yeah, I mean, and for the Dolphins, I mean, they barely just hung around. Of course, they barely hung around against the Eagles, and then last week losing 24-14 to the Dallas Cowboys. So yeah, I mean, and the thing is for Tannehill, I mean, for Ryan Tannehill in his 7 career meetings against the Jets hasn't been really good. He has a completion percentage. He has a 55% completion percentage of his passage. He does have 6 touchdown passes, but he's got 8 interceptions. And the thing is, I mean, he had his worst performance against the Jets earlier in the year, where he went 19 of 44 for 198 yards with 2 touchdowns and a couple of picks. So, yes. So, I think it's because of the way the Dolphins have been lately. I'm actually going to go with the New York Jets to win this one. I mean, yeah, no Darrelle Revis, and even no Nick Mangold as well. But the thing is, their defense, even without Revis, is still good enough. And I think Chris Ivory, is finally going to bounce back, especially against the Dolphins. So basically, give me the New York Jets to win this one. I'm going to go 28-21. The New York Jets beat the Miami Dolphins. So, Fletcher, I give it to you.
This is a very dangerous game for both teams because of the fact that Miami, they got to do something. I mean, this was a season of high expectations. A lot of people had them not only going to the playoffs, there was even a couple of people that thought that they were going to represent the AFC, make it all the way to the Super Bowl. And it just hasn't panned out. You know, after Miami pretty much, let's be realistic, they laid down and they got Joe Philbin fired. You know, I will even admit, and I'll openly admit this, Joe Philbin never should have been the coach of the Miami Dolphins going into the season in the first place. But for what it's worth, they did bring in Dan Campbell. 2 games in, they looked really good, but now it went back to the status quo. And the problem is, it's our defense. Our defense just can't hold up. And that's the problem. And now Ryan Tannehill's starting to stink. He's not playing as great as he used to. You know, now there's questions, do we need a quarterback for the upcoming, should we be looking at a new direction, add a new quarterback? There's questions about the head coach now. So, I mean, it's a complete and utter mess in Miami. As far as the Jets goes, there's no drama. It's not that Jersey Shore Kardashian New York Jets like we talk about year in and year out. They're right there in the thick of it. And even Miami, believe it or not, as bad as their record is, as and I hate to say it, but as putrid as the AFC has been, Miami's about maybe 1 or 2 games out of the wild card. This is how crazy the season's been. So it is what it is. It needs to be handled. Um, like we said in the last game, Chris Ivory went absolutely nuts on the Dolphins. They ran roughshod all over them in the last game, and it really turned the season on its head. Not only that, but Tannehill didn't really play that great. You know, there's nothing more to say. I mean, normally when you play against the Jets in MetLife, something good normally happens. But the one problem was, if you remember 1 year ago when they played the Jets, it was a Monday Night Football game, but the Jets ran the football on the Dolphins. They ran it down their throats. And if you remember, Chris Johnson had one of his best games as a pro. He ran for over 142 yards. Ivory was injured that season, so he didn't really play that great. But, it was remarkable what they were doing. So at the end of the day, you got to handle it what you got to handle it. And, we just got to see what happens. And that's all I got to say. So let's see what happens, and we'll see how it handles. But the Jets are just a little better than Miami. Miami kind of has a decent running game with Lamar Miller. We just got to see how he just needs to get better. They got Jay Ajayi now. He looks like he's looking really good. Tannehill just has to stop making the mistakes. He's got to stop taking sacks. He looks like he gets a little tentative when he throws. He got to get better with that. But, against this defense, against the Jets, it's a top 10 defense, to say the very least. I think the Jets will eke out a win. It's going to be like a 24-21 game, though. I don't think it's going to be a big blowout or a dominating performance. I just think the Jets will just barely escape and win this game. So with that said, Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah, and now we move on to our next game, and unfortunately, it's one of the Zonk games of the week. Yeah, get ready for this one, boys. The Oakland Raiders going up against the Tennessee Titans at Nissan Field in Nashville. This game's on CBS, and calling the game for CBS will be none other than the legendary Greg Gumbel, along with Trent Green and the beautiful Jamie Yerdahl. You remember Jamie Yerdahl? She used to be the ringside reporter for the Boston Bruins on NESN. She's with CBS obviously now, so she'll be working with Greg Gumbel and Trent Green for this Raider-Titan matchup. The spread favors the Oakland Raiders only by 1 to 2 points, although one spread I see has this as a pick-em game. I don't know why, but it is. A 1 to 2 point spread for the Raiders, and series history favors the Raiders 23 to 20. However, the Titans have won the last 3 meetings in this series. Last meeting was in 2013. That game was in Oakland. The Titans won that one in the Black Hole by a score of 23 to 19. Last meeting in Tennessee was in 2010, and the Titans went all over the Raiders that day, 38 to 13. And then the other meeting was in 2007. Tennessee won 13 to 9, also at home against the Raiders. So those are the last 3 meetings. The last time the Raiders not only beat the Titans, but also beat the Titans in Nashville, it was in 2005. The Raiders came out of Nashville with a 34 to 25 win. So that's all the series history. Those are all the schematics you need to know for this game. So, Michael Bullock, as you start this one off, I ask you, the Oakland Raiders or the Tennessee Titans, what do you like in one of our 2 Zonk games of the week here?
Well, I can tell you. I mean, the Oakland Raiders. I mean, the thing is, the Oakland Raiders. To me, I think they're the much better team. Tennessee. Basically, they're coming off of a bye week, and the thing is, they haven't even won a game at home this year. The last time they won at home was October 12th of last year. So they lost 10 in a row at home, and a loss here, which I think they'll lose, and it would be their 11th straight home loss, and it would tie them for the third longest skid in league history. And the Titans are only 1-2 under interim coach Mike Mularkey. So yeah, I mean, and the thing is, of course, they lost in overtime to the Saints. I mean, well, the thing is, I mean, they did get a win in overtime against the Saints, 34-28. I mean, but the thing is, overall, they're last in the AFC in points per game, and they've only tallied a total of 23 points in 2 games since that win. But the thing is, they are going to get Kendall Wright back after missing the last 3 with a knee injury. And the thing is, the offensive line, the offensive line hasn't been good. I mean, especially after the last game for the Titans. Of course, when they lost to Jacksonville 19-13, and he got sacked 4 times in that game, bringing his total to 24. And Mariota has not thrown a touchdown since tossing 4 against the Saints. Yes, and of course, Dexter McCluster is going to miss this game with a knee injury. So yeah. So basically, I'm going to go with the New Orleans. I'm going to go with the Oakland Raiders to win this one. I just think they're the better team. I'm going to say the final score for me is going to be, I'm going to go 28-10 is going to be my final score. I think Amari Cooper will have a solid game. I think we'll probably get some of Latavius Murray. I think Derek Carr will have a solid game. So, yeah, give me the Oakland Raiders to beat the Tennessee Titans. So, Fletcher, I give it to you.
Yeah, this is one game I'm not looking forward to. I'm not going to waste too much time about it. Oakland has looked very good lately. You know, they did have a minor setback, but the Raiders have overachieved this season, and I think that's the key word. They've overachieved. When you started the season, a lot of people were thinking that Oakland was going to be one of these mediocre teams below 500, even though they are 4-6, which is granted. But David Carr has proven to be quite a find for Oakland. 21 touchdowns, 6 INTs, over 2,500 yards passing, and for Marcus Mariota, not bad for a rookie season. 2,026 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 INTs for him. Of course, Latavius Murray has had an okay season. I think that's going to be a key factor in the game. Michael Crabtree, 57 catches for almost 700 yards, but you also got to remember, the big pickup for with Amari Cooper, who I believe is right now, you have to believe, has to be one of the front runners for the NFL AP Rookie of the Year. I believe he's definitely within the mix. I definitely believe he could win it. And I gotta say, I gotta go with the Raiders. I liked what they've been doing this season. This is not going to be an easy game. I don't believe it will be, but coming down to the nitty gritty, I think they're going to do it. I think they got what it takes. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. But I do believe Oakland does have enough. I think they will win the game. My final score is I got Oakland winning this one 20-17. The Raiders will knock off the Tennessee Titans. Anthony, I give it to you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I got the Raiders winning this game as well. I mean, but fellas, I do have some breaking news here. TCU has just beaten Baylor in double overtime, 28-21. So the TCU Horned Frogs a humongous win for them as they beat the Baylor Bears in a very exciting five-star classic Shakespearean drama all around. It went to double OT, but it was TCU who comes away with the win, 28-21. Oh yeah, needless to say, it will definitely affect our next Strictly Sports college football power rankings, to say the very least. So I just wanted to share that breaking news with you guys. What a big win for TCU, and what a horrific loss for Baylor. That pretty much kills their playoff hopes now. So, getting back to this, I definitely have Oakland win this game. No question about this. I mean, Tennessee has been horrific at home, like Bullock said. I mean, I already knew that stat anyway. I mean, 10 consecutive losses at home for the Tennessee Titans. And, yeah, it doesn't. And you got, one of the surprise teams in the NFL this year, the Oakland Raiders, who are actually hanging around in that AFC playoff race. I mean, at 4-6, and yeah, so Derek Carr should have a big game. Latavius Murray should have a big game. Amari Cooper, my man from Alabama. I mean, how much I love his body of work last year on our shows, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what else there is. What else there is for me to say? I mean, I'm sure Mariota will have a fine game. I'm sure Antonio Andrews and the running game should be all right, and receiving core needs work. But that's pretty much all there is to it. So I'm going to go with the Oakland Raiders to win this game as well. I agree with you fellas. I will say the final score for me, I would have to say I'm going to go 30. I'm going to go 30-20. The Oakland Raiders over the Tennessee Titans at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. So 30-20, Oakland wins. All right, so that's one song came down. There will be another one coming up in a little while, but now we're going to get back into the meat of the schedule now with a huge game in the NFC East, or as I call it, the Joe Buck and Troy Aikman division. The New York Giants going up against the Washington Redskins, FedEx Field, Landover, Maryland. That's where this game will be. This game is on Fox. Calling this game for Fox will be Kenny Albert, along with Carol Moose Johnson and Laura Oakman. They will be at FedEx Field in Landover for this game. The spread favors the New York Giants. It's a 2.5 to 3 point spread in favor of the G-Men. And they met earlier this year. They met in Week 3 at MetLife Stadium. The Giants won that game 32-21. So including that Giant victory from Week 3 of this season, the regular season series now stands updated now, mind you. The Giants leading it, get this, guys, 97-64 with 4 ties. We're not going to get into the ties. That's too many ties to count. But 97-64 and 4 ties in favor of the New York Giants. And by the way, that Giant win in New York this year, that's the 5th consecutive win the Giants have had against the Redskins. Last time the Redskins beat the Giants, well, actually, it was the last time they beat them at home, 2012. The Redskins beat the Giants at FedEx Field 17-16. The Giants, however, have won the last 2 meetings in Washington. Last year, we all remember it was one of those boring and meh Thursday night football games. The Giants pounded the Redskins to a pulp 45-14. And then in 2013, the Giants also won in Washington 24-17. So that's all there is on that. So with that said, I do believe I believe Fletcher starts this one off. Am I correct on that? Yes. So I believe Bullock led off on the Oakland and Tennessee, which is one of our 2 song games of the week. So Michael Fletcher, huge game in the NFC East. The New York Giants against the Washington Redskins at FedEx Field. So Giants have won 5 in a row. Do they make it 6? Or do the Redskins actually stop the bleeding? And what do the Redskins have to do to finally get the giant monkey off their back, as they now lost 5 in a row against the G-Men?
Well, I don't want to be too much of a cynical critic here, Floyo, but you might want to fix your mic or something because it's coming really staticky on my end. Like I'm hearing a lot of static from you. It kind of cuts
Yeah,
in and
same
out.
here. Same.
It like it's very noticeable now, Floyo. Just to give you a heads up on that. Um, uh, let's break it down and let's do this before we get into anything first. Um, Washington hasn't been that great, but I gotta say, what we've seen lately from Kirk Cousins, it's been all right. Eli's been consistent, 2,700 yards, 21 touchdowns, 6 INTs. But the thing is with the Giants, they're so good for 3 quarters of the game, and then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, something goes wrong, something goes kooky, and boom goes the dynamite, and the Giants blow up. There's an implosion, there's a mistake, poor clock management, Tom Coughlin does something stupid, Eli throws an ill-advised pass, there's a fumble, some kind of Dinkelberg thing just goes out, and the Giants gets torpedoed. They had the Patriots dead to rights. Odell Beckham Jr. Doesn't catch a touchdown pass. It forces a field goal. They leave too much time for Brady, and we all saw what happened there. So, I mean, it seems like there's always something that happens with the Giants. And as far as the Redskins go, you never know what to expect from Redskins. I mean, 1 week they looked like they were dead rights to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had that big comeback, and yes, Kirk Cousins, you're still ringing in my ear when you say you like that, saying, heading to the locker room, yeah, we liked it, we respect you, and we liked what you guys did. That was a nice win for you guys, and believe it or not, you're still in the mix. If you win this game, you are going to be tied for first place in the NFC East. What? Are you freaking kidding me? So this is one of those. This is a dangerous game. You don't know how this is going to play out, and the body of work would tell you. Normally this is one of those games where you just want to see how this is going to play out. I mean, the Giants are better offensively, clearly, through the passing. Running game, running is a complete wash. Both teams suck at running game. They got no running backs. If you're telling me Alfred Morris, who was supposed to be a 1,000-yard rusher this year, now only has, for the season, 404 yards, and we're about, how many games we're in? About 12, 13 games in this NFL season, and you only have mustered a pathetic 404 yards, and oh, by the way, 0 touchdowns, gentlemen. I'm going to let that simmer for a second. And then Rashad Jennings is not that better. I mean, for heaven's sake. Eli Manning, like I said, he's done good. Odell Beckham Jr., yeah, what Madden curse are we talking about? This guy only has 863 yards and 8 touchdowns in this NFL season. When you normally have a Madden curse, your numbers are supposed to be underwhelming, or you're supposed to get hurt at some point in the season, and he's not getting hurt. He's getting actually better, and he's about to go over 1,000 yards. So he's giving the big woohoo middle finger to EA Sports and that Madden curse, and telling it to shove it up where the sun don't shine. I could say something else, but I want to be a man of good faith, and I also want to be a family show, so that Anthony Floyo and Michael Bullock can breathe a little easier. All of a sudden, now a little bit of the Vipers coming out on me. I'm sorry. I apologize, gentlemen. But I will say this. I got to go with New York. The thing is that the problem with the defense is that, I mean, both teams are near the bottom. I mean, the Giants are second to worst in the league. The Redskins are not that better. They're 22nd in the league. The Giants give up a season high 309 yards, which is worse than the NFL. they're basically 19th ranked in total defense. In third down conversions, they actually surrendered the most third down conversions at 47.8%. So I mean, and plus Washington's 4-1 at home. The Giants are 3-2 at home. It's a big divisional game. This is a do or die divisional game, to say the very least. The Giants are the favorite. You know, starting last week, they were 1.5. Now they're 2.5. So I mean, there's really nothing here to really talk about. There's no real major injuries for the New York Giants. I mean, Larry Donnell is out for the team. That was the only major injury with a neck injury for them. Julius Randle is day-to-day. Odell Beckham Jr. is day-to-day, but they're both going to play. Jason Pierre-Paul with the hand, he's day-to-day, but they pretty much says he's practically a go. For Washington, there's really not that many major injuries. Alfred Morris is probable with a rib. But, you know, I got to go with the Giants here. I think the New York Giants are going to get the job done. I think they're going to win this game. It's not going to be the most flashiest. It ain't going to be the prettiest, to say the very least. But they're good enough to win this game. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Give me the New York Giants. The final score, 28-17. The G-Men will knock off the Redskins, and they'll have a 2-game cushion in the NFC East. With that said, Anthony, I hope you got your audio problems straightened out. It is all yours, my friend.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear now.
Yeah, we can hear you now, Florio.
Okay, good. So, yeah, that gave me a headache there, but okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure we were all set here. So, yeah, they met back in week 3 of this year. The Giants won that 32-21. You know, it got them off the schneid, if you will. I believe that was also a Thursday. Yes, that was also a Thursday night game. Correct. The Redskins may have outgained the Giants 393-363 in that game, but the Giant defense forced 3 turnovers and recorded a sack of Kirk Cousins. Eli Manning threw for 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions, 279 yards, a rating of 119.1. Both teams' running games were terrible. Yeah, the running attacks have to get better. That's definitely Redskins 88 yards rushing, the Giants 84. That's not going to make it easier. The receiving cores were great. Jordan Reed led the Redskins with 96 yards receiving against the Giants, and you would have thought Odell Beckham. No, it was Reuben Randall. Reuben Randall had 116 yards receiving and a touchdown in that win against the Giants, or I should say in that win against the Washington Redskins, and it was also and also Odell Beckham Jr. had 79 yards, had 79 yards receiving and a touchdown in that win, I should say. So it was definitely the Giants who came away with that win. So that was a 32-21 final, and that was it. So yeah, I mean, 3 turnovers by the defense, and also had a sack of Cousins. So yeah, that's a bit of a loss for Larry Donnell. I mean, Larry Donnell was a Redskin killer. I mean, you remember he had 3 receiving touchdowns, I believe, in that Dud enhancement game a year ago on that Thursday night in Washington, that 45-14 beatdown. And yeah, the running games have to get better, like I said. I mean, Matt Jones led the Redskins with only 38 yards. Rashad Jennings had 32. That's not going to get it done. But Reed and Randall had great games on the receiving core, as well as Odell Beckham Jr. For the Giants. And the 1 sack was by Jonathan Casillas. He had the sack of Kirk Cousins in that win. And 3 turnovers, which 2 interceptions and a lost fumble for the Giants, and a possible career milestone could be had for Eli Manning here. Eli Manning needs exactly 300 yards passing. If he passes for at least 300 yards or more in this game against the Redskins on Sunday, he will have 11 consecutive years of 3,000 or more yards passing in an NFL season. So 11 in a row. We could be looking at 11 consecutive 3,000-yard passing seasons for Eli Manning. He needs 300 on the money, and I think he's going to get it. I really do. It could be this game, or it could be in their next game. I don't know, but he will eventually get it. He's too good. So I'm expecting him to have another solid game here. I really don't have any hopes about the running game, but you got that damn good receiving core. Odell Beckham Jr., Ruben Randle. Of course, they're not going to have Victor Cruz for this season. That calf injury has just been too much for him. So we're not going to be seeing any salsa dancing from Victor Cruz this time around. Hopefully next year he'll be back up and ready to go. And once they get him back, you put him and Beckham together, oh boy, that's a dangerous combination, as well as Ruben Randle. So you could have a three-headed monster for a receiving core for the Giants next year if they have Cruz back and healthy and ready to go. But Beckham and Randle will still have solid games. I think the defense will definitely get to Cousins and fluster him and keep that Redskins running game down. Alfred Morris and Matt Jones. I do agree, Michael Fletcher. Alfred Morris has been a colossal disappointment this year in so many ways, and Fletch hit the nail on the head on that. So with that said, I'm going with the New York Giants to win this game. Final score, I'm going to say 35-24. The New York Giants over the Washington Redskins at FedEx Field. So with that said, Michael Bullock, New York Giants, Washington Redskins, big game in the NFC East. Who you got in this one?
This is definitely a big game in the NFC East. Of course, the Giants, like you said, have a one-game lead over the Redskins for that lead. So, yeah, and of course the Giants, they were on a bye after coming off of a tough loss to, of course, the New England Patriots. And of course, last week the Redskins were, they were basically routed at home by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 45-17, and basically, and the defense for the Giants have forced 23 turnovers for the league's second best total, and offensively, they've been good, and here's the thing: Eli Manning will have a new target. Well, let's just say a new old target. Hakeem Nicks he returns to the Giants after of course being out of football since the start of the season. Of course, last time he played was with the Indianapolis Colts, and of course Nicks had two 1,000-yard seasons with the Giants between 2009 and 2013 before the injuries derailed him last year for the Indianapolis Colts, and of course you still got Odell Beckham Jr., who's still been playing really good. So and the Reds. Yeah, and of course like I said, the Redskins played good last week, but of course Alfred Morris, he has a rib injury, and like you said, it's been a real big disappointment. And Deshaun Jackson, of course, he'll be playing in this game. Of course, he didn't play in the last time was because of a hamstring injury, and of course Jason Pierre-Paul was, did miss the start of the season because of that, losing that finger in his in the July 4th fireworks accident. So, and like you said, in the last 5 meetings, New York has outscored Washington 145-71. So I expect this to continue. So give me the New York Giants to win this one. I'll say 38-21 is going to be my final score. Manning will have a solid game. Same thing with Odell Beckham Jr. So basically, give me the Giants to win this one. So with that being said, Florio, let's move on to the next one. I think it's our final 1 o'clock game. Or actually, I think that's it.
Yeah, this was our last 1 o'clock game.
Yeah, that's it. So with that being said, let's move on to what I think is only the first of only two of our only two 4 o'clock only one 4 o'clock game, and the other is a 4:25 game.
Indeed, yes, you are correct, sir. So here you go. Late games now, 4:05 kickoff. We have the Arizona Cardinals going up against the San Francisco 49ers. This is at Levi's Stadium in San Francisco. And this game is going to be on Fox. And calling this game for Fox will be Chris Myers with Rondé Barber and Jennifer Hale. They will be in San Francisco for this Cardinals 49ers matchup. Cardinals, the biggest favorite of the week as far as spread is concerned. They are 10 to 11.5 point favorites against the 49ers. Series history, which also includes the Cardinals' 47-7 beatdown on the Niners in Arizona in Week 3. The 49ers lead this now, including that game, 29-19 in favor of San Francisco. But here's the thing: the San Francisco 49ers have won the last 6 meetings in San Francisco. The Niners have beaten the Cardinals at home 6 consecutive years. The last time the Cardinals went into San Francisco and came out of there with a victory, you got to go back to 2008. That was a 23-13 win. And that was also the last time the Cardinals swept the 49ers in the regular season, winning both meetings. They've either split or the 49ers won both meetings. So they split last year, but both teams won at home. So that's all there is to say on that. So I believe I take this one. I start this one off. So the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, that was my stat about the Arizona Cardinals. They've lost 6 consecutive meetings with the 49ers, that is in San Francisco. And they're seeking to sweep the 49ers in the regular season for the first time since 2008. Oh, by the way, fellas, 2008, that Cardinal team went to the Super Bowl and nearly won it against the Pittsburgh Steelers in that unforgettable 5-star Shakespearean drama-laden classic at Raymond James Stadium. Almost won it. They were 35 seconds away from winning that thing, but, you know, it is what it is there. So they met the 49ers earlier this year. That was a Week 3 game. That was in Arizona. The Cardinals pounded the Niners to a pulp, 47-7. All this favors Arizona. I mean, they held the Niners to 156 total yards of offense, 10 total first downs. The defense forced 4 turnovers and recorded 2 sacks of Colin Kaepernick, not to mention 4 interceptions, including, I believe, 2 of them ran back for touchdowns in that romp in Arizona. Oh, by the way, the Cardinals put up 446 yards of offense. And even though they committed a turnover and Carson Palmer was sacked once, that defense, though, 4 turnovers, which were all interceptions of Colin Kaepernick, also 2 sacks of Colin Kaepernick, and outgained them 446 to 156. 10 total first downs. Time of possession, 36 minutes and 32 seconds for Arizona. Only 23 minutes and 28 seconds for the 49ers. And Justin Bethel, a 21-yard interception return for a touchdown. The Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, a 33-yard interception return for a touchdown. So, I mean, what can you say? I mean, the Arizona Cardinals just absolutely brought it on that day, and you can honestly remember in all the years of the 49ers, the mystique and the tradition of the San Francisco 49ers, the days of Joe Montana and Steve Young and Jerry Rice and all those guys. I mean, they never experienced anything like that. Kaepernick, 4 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 16.7. Carson Palmer threw for over 300 yards, had 2 touchdowns, but he threw a pick. Chris Johnson, 110 yards rushing and 2 scores, discovered the fountain of youth that day. Larry Fitzgerald also discovered the fountain of youth. He had 134 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns in that win. And 4 interceptions, like I said, 2 of them by Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, including 1 ran back for a score. Justin Bethel had 1 running back for a score, and Gerard Powers had the other pick and 2 sacks. Frosty Rucker and Lamar Woodley, the sacks of Colin Kaepernick. Just an all-around total domination by the Cardinals in Week 3 against the 49ers. So, and that's for the 49ers. The interesting stat I had about the 49ers against their defense is pathetic. How pathetic? Well, they allow over 400 yards a game. I believe it was like 404 yards a game that the defense gives up a game. Yeah, that's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Of course, we all know Colin Kaepernick is done for the year. Blaine Gabbert will take his chances against the Cardinals. I don't think they're going to fare well at all, considering that the Cardinals have won 4 games in a row, including 2 back-to-back Shakespearean drama classics against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle, and then, of course, that possible Super Bowl preview against the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, that would be one hell of a Super Bowl if we get that in San Fran, and I believe it's in 11 weeks. So, but yeah, nonetheless, though, the Cardinals are going to win this thing. This is my lock of the week right here, considering they're the biggest favorite of the week. 10 to 11.5 points is the spread. Carson Palmer goes off. Chris Johnson goes off. Larry Fitzgerald goes off. Michael Floyd, John Brown, that defense, the Honey Badger, and the rest of that defense, Calais Campbell, they're going to feast all over Blaine Gabbert. The running game with Carlos Hyde, forget about it. Receiving core will do nothing. This is going to be another easy win for the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know if it's going to be as decisive as that game before, but I do have the Arizona Cardinals winning this thing, going away. 41-10, that's my final score. The Arizona Cardinals all over the San Francisco 49ers, and thus will sweep the regular season series from the 49ers for the first time since their Super Bowl year of 2008 and end that 6-game road losing streak in San Francisco. So with all that said, Michael Bullock, I know who you have. I know this has got to be your lock of the week as well, and I'm sure Fletcher feels the same way, but just give me your brief thoughts about this Cardinals-49ers till at Levi's on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing more to say. I mean, San Francisco, they're going through some hard times, and the offense of the Cardinals has just been really good, especially after that 34-31 win over the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. So, yeah, there's really nothing more to describe. So I got Arizona winning this one. I'm going to go 45-10 is going to be my final score. Palmer's going to go off. Fitzgerald's going to go off. So there's really nothing more to say on this. So, Fletcher, I give it to you.
Yeah, this is one of the locks of the week. This is considered the lock of the week, and this is where I probably would say this is probably going to be an easy call. Arizona's just way too good. They're way too dangerous. I just don't see how they're gonna lose this game. If they lose, it's gonna be a devastating loss. There's nothing more to say. I'm with you guys. Arizona should win this one pretty handily. So nothing more to say. Let's move on.
And we move on to another one of our big games of the week. I can honestly say this is the number 2 game of the week if you really think about it on our end. When it comes to the AFC, that is. But it was really 3rd overall since an NFC game got into our CBS schedule. But nonetheless, it's one of the big games of the week. This is another headline matchup here. A rematch of Super Bowl 40, if you will. The Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Seattle Seahawks, CenturyLink Field in Seattle. And calling this game for CBS, believe it or not, it will be Jim Nance with Phil Simms and Tracy Wolfson. They're going to be pulling double duty. I mean, you remember they called yesterday's Panthers rout of the Cowboys in Jerry World yesterday. They were there for that, and they're pulling double duty. They're actually going to be working this game. So, and the best part is we're getting this game on our local affiliate, so I'm very happy about that. This
is the second straight year they're going to be pulling a double duty on CBS. Especially after, of course, remember they worked the Thanksgiving game last year, and then of course they went on to call the Patriots-Packers game.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did at Lambeau Field, game of the century, and it lived up to the hype. That's all there is to it. So, the spread favors the Seattle Seahawks, 3.5-point spread in favor of Seattle, and the series history, 8-8. It's an 8-8, even, tied, 8-8 in the series history. The Steelers have won the last 2 meetings in this series. Last meeting was in 2011. Steelers won that game in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field, 24-0. The other meeting, also in Pittsburgh, 2007, that was also a shutout. So the Steelers have outscored the Seahawks 45-0 in the last 2 meetings. Last meeting in Seattle was in 2003. The Seahawks won that game by a score of 23-16. And as I look at it, the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers came out of Seattle with a win, you got to go all the way back to the year of not just my birth, but also the year of Michael Fletcher's birth, 1983. That's the last time the Steelers came out of Seattle with a victory. That was a 27-21 final, and that was at the old Kingdome. That's back when the Seahawks were in the Kingdome. So 27-21, 1983, the last time Pittsburgh won in Seattle. So how about that? So Michael Bullock, you start off this matchup. Pittsburgh Steelers, Seattle Seahawks. It's one of our headline games of the week. Rematch of Super Bowl 40. I ask you, do the Steelers win in Seattle for the first time since 1983, or will the Seahawks and the 12th man find a way to get it done once again?
Yeah, when it comes to this, I mean, of course, we all know when it comes to Seattle, Marshawn Lynch he's going to miss his second straight game, and it looks like he's going to miss a few weeks because of, well, he underwent abdominal surgery for a sports hernia, and yeah, so they're going to miss him for a pretty good amount of time. So Thomas Rawls is going to get the start for him, and yes, so, and of course, excuse me, and the Legion of Boom, I mean, they basically haven't been, they haven't really been the Legion of Boom lately. I mean, especially after losing that tough game to the Arizona Cardinals, and the thing is, I mean, they got a tough, and they gotta have a tough time with Antonio Brown. I mean, he has 27 catches in his last 2 games, which is of course the 4th highest 2-game total in league history, and Martavius Bryant in the last contest had 178 yards receiving in the game and caught his 5th touchdown of the season. So, I mean, yeah, of course, when it comes to the running game, they don't have, of course, we all know about Le'Veon Bell. He's done for this season. But DeAngelo Williams has done a nice job filling in. And then in the last 3 games, he's averaged about 134.7 yards from scrimmage and 5.57 for a rush. So, yeah, so this is going to be interesting to see what happens. So I think because of the way, Seattle's been lately, I'm actually going to say it. I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're going to go in and beat Seattle. I'm going to say my final score is going to be, I'm going to say 31-24 is going to be my final score. Roethlisberger is going to have a solid game. Antonio Brown and Martavius Bryant will have a solid game. I think DeAngelo Williams will we'll have a good game on the ground, and yeah, so basically give me the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat the Seattle Seahawks. So Fletcher, I give it to you.
Wait a minute. Wait. Hold up. Did I just hear that Michael Bullock went with the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat the Seattle Seahawks and the 12th man on Sunday?
Well. Remember, Arizona, they went into the home of the 12th man in Seattle, and look what they did. They came out with the victory.
Okay, hold on. Okay, fair point. But is Roethlisberger playing on Sunday?
Yes, he is.
He is. Okay, so he is a go. I gotta check the injury report quickly. Just let me see. Yeah, he's day-to-day with the foot. So, no, I will say this. I understand about the Marshawn Lynch thing. That was a big loss. Doug Baldwin is actually right now nursing an ankle. And even Thomas Rawls, who's the new running back, he's probable with a knee. But the problem I have with this is, it's really the big problem I see in this is, yeah, there isn't really that big running attack at all for both teams. Well, especially for Seattle, because they were ranked the number one ranked defense in all of the NFL. I mean, the number one ranked team. But here's the thing, Michael Bullock, and here's the problem why I think Pittsburgh's going to lose. The Legion of Boom, defensively, they only give up 207 yards through the air, 303 yards total offense. They shut teams down. They only give up 19 points per game, and third down conversions, they only give up 32.3% of the time. I mean, the matchup looks a lot more better if you look at it. And yeah, I know Pittsburgh's won the last 3 battles, but the thing is that what happens when a team is wounded, and normally when they lose a game like this, they come out spitting fire, and they take it out on the next thing. The 49ers was a sacrificial lamb when they got beaten down 29-13. And if you remember in that game, Russell Wilson, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. Thomas Rawls, 30 carries, 209 yards, and a touchdown. And on top of that, the 49ers alone only could get 306 total yards, got sacked twice, and they lost the ball twice in the game. They fumbled the ball, and they fumbled the ball twice as well. So, I mean, I'm sorry. The one thing that makes me a little suspicious or suspect is Pittsburgh's D. And I'm going to be real blunt with you about that. I mean, they've won 2 in a row. Yeah, granted, they've won the last 2 games. But here's the thing. They easily could have lost to the Raiders. They did lose to Cincinnati. They lost to Kansas City. So, I mean, and the last game was 30-9, but it was against the Cleveland Browns. What have you done for me lately? That's what I say. So, yeah, the Seattle did lose to Arizona, but it was a tough loss. That was a tough luck loss. Seattle easily could have won that game. at least in my eyes, they could have won that game. So, I mean, it's kind of been one of those where the injuries have started to mount, but the thing is, this is really the time where Seattle needs to show up. And normally when they do, they start rising to the occasion. Even though their record doesn't reflect it, trust me, when they're at home, they're really strong and they're really powerful. And this season, yeah, they've been 3-2 at home, so I understand it. But sometimes there's some good games, sometimes you have bad games. But I believe Seattle is due, and they're going to make Pittsburgh pay for this little indiscretion and some of the mistakes that they made. They cleaned it up last week, and they looked really good. Trust me, that 12-man, the two-time NFC reigning champions, and on top of that, the Super Bowl 48 world champions. Yeah, I'm going with Seattle at home. They're going to win this one 27-21. Anthony, it's yours.
Normally, I don't like to be put in a position of who do I agree with, but this time around, I definitely know who I'm agreeing with here. And I have to go with Michael Fletch on this one, with all due respect. I got to go with Fletch. I had the Seattle Seahawks winning this game as well. Now, I think I might have a reason why Michael Bullock might have gone with Pittsburgh to win this game. An interesting little stat line here. Seahawks' overall record, I do believe, is 5-5. I believe they are 0-4 or 0-5 against teams with winning records, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have a winning record. Whereas the Seattle Seahawks are, I believe, 5-0 or 5-1. No, it's 0-4 against teams with winning records. They're 5-1 against teams with losing records. So I think that's the reason probably why Bullock went with Pittsburgh to win that game. But the thing is, it's in Seattle. That 12th man, it's very tough. And with Pittsburgh, I know Roethlisberger should be ready to go, but the Legion of Boom is going to absolutely bring it against Roethlisberger. They're going to get to him quite a bit. They're going to contain D'Angelo Williams in the running game. I think they're going to get to Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant in the receiving corps. Russell Wilson should have himself a solid game. Thomas Rawls, or whoever this guy is that's filling in for Marshawn Lynch, I think he will go beast mode. I can see him going beast mode again. The receiving corps, Jimmy Graham and Jermaine Kearse and Doug Baldwin should have solid games, and of course the Legion of Boom, they're going to feast on some Ben Roethlisberger. So I do believe this will be an exciting game. It's going to be one of the I could see this possibly being a 5-star game, maybe some Shakespearean drama in this one. It's definitely, like I said, one of my top games of the week for sure. And at the end of the day, I got to go with Fletcher. I think the Seattle Seahawks will win, considering they're at home in the 12th man. So I got the Seahawks winning this one. I'm going to say 24-21. The Seattle Seahawks over the Pittsburgh Steelers at CenturyLink Field should be a great matchup. And now it's time for the game of the week. Sunday Night Football. The New England Patriots going up against the Denver Broncos. Sports Authority Field at Mile High in Denver is where we're going to be for this. If it's Sunday Night Football on NBC, you know who's calling this game. You don't need a dirt sheet for this one. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya, they'll be in Denver for this one. They'll be pulling double duty as well, considering they called the Bears and Packers game last night, which was amazing. The spread favors who else? The New England Patriots, but not as sizable as it usually is. It's only a 2.5 to 3 point spread for the New England Patriots in this matchup. Series history favors the Denver Broncos by a count of 25-20. Last meeting was a year ago. It was in Foxborough, and the Patriots were all over the Broncos that day, 43-21. Their last overall meeting in Denver was, of course, in January of 2014. They met in the AFC Championship game, and the Broncos won that game 26-16 to advance to the Super Bowl before they got their brains beat out by Seattle in the most lopsided Super Bowl of all time. Absolute dud from start to finish. No Shakespearean drama whatsoever. They've met in New England quite a few times. Their last regular season meeting in Denver was actually 2011, and the Patriots won that game by a score of 41-23. That was during the whole Tim Tebow nonsense. And then the last time the Broncos won at home against the Patriots in the regular season, if you don't count that AFC title game from a couple years ago, it was in 2009, and the Broncos won that 20-17 in overtime. So 25-20 in favor of Denver in the overall series. So, and it's only fitting, seeing that it's the game of the week, our game of the week in a way. It's only fitting that Michael Fletcher starts off our preview of this. So Michael Fletcher, do that Phil Simms and do that Chris Collinsworth thing I love so much. The New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos, of course, no Peyton Manning for Denver. So I ask you, can Brock Osweiler do it again? Can Brock Osweiler do what he did against the Chicago Bears? Can he do the unthinkable and lead the Broncos to a huge win, a monumental win, against far and away the best team in the league in the New England Patriots? And if so, Fletch, what does Osweiler have to do in order for him to pull off maybe the biggest win of his young career?
It's going to be such a tough order, Anthony Florio, but I will say this. It can be done, and it can be done. The one thing he needs to establish is the one thing that I think a lot of teams don't really do is really establish a running game against New England. New England is prone to run. You know, they are really good, but they have been prone. And the thing is that when you push them, and this is the strategy that the New York Giants did, and they found kind of a blueprint on New England, and that was to throw the ball downfield, make that secondary run, you know, keep it away. Do not go down the side of Malcolm Butler. You go down Malcolm Butler, you're asking for trouble. If you go anywhere on the other side of the field and you start pushing and pressing on that secondary, basically Osweiler has to do is, you got some big targets. You got Emmanuel Sanders, you got Demaryius Thomas. You got weapons there. Use them, utilize them. Let them be your catalyst. Let them bring something to the lumber. And you know what? Run it on New England. Throw the deep ball. Don't be afraid to step up. If they start blitzing, pick that man up and, you know, dump it to your tight end. What you have to do to New England is you have to make them think, oh man, we got to start protecting the pass. When that happens, C.J. Anderson will get going, Ronnie Hillman will get going. That's when you start establishing a running game. When you do that, that's when good things happen for the Denver Broncos. And if they start utilizing that, I think we got ourselves an upset in the making. But the problem is this. The one thing that you have to do in that situation is you also have to see how you got to see how they would do that. And that's basically what it is. New England is a 3-4 defense. They always utilize the blitz pickups, and it's really great what the defensive coordinator of the Patriots does. The scheming, and especially Belichick, how they surprise you sometimes. They'll give you a look in one way, and then they might bring in an extra blitz or two and hit the line and show up out of nowhere, and you don't see it coming. And relatively, for the most part, you see how that type of offensive awareness is. And that's why I love how what New England's defensive side looks, because of the fact that they're going to give you the matchups. They're going to give you yardage. What they do is they bunker down and they bring it. Sometimes what they'll do is they might show you a zone. They might show you man-to-man. They'll show you some kind of little things, a little nuance that maybe you don't see. Something that might look appetizing, it's a trap. They'll they'll play it deep, just like they'll use in other situations. And a lot of the times, New England's defenses are ball hawks. I think we all know how great Malcolm Butler has been. He's become one of the premier corners in the game. And without a doubt, you still got some great guys, Patrick Chung. You still got, some big meaty guys in the middle. Now, as far as New England goes, and Anthony, you wanted me to talk about this. The number one key for New England is what are you going to handle with Denver's defense, because Denver's defense has been amazing all year long. They get to the quarterback. They get their blind spot. That offensive line is a makeshift offensive line. And for some way, somehow, Brady has still been able to do what he has to do. But granted, last week, he got roughed up. There was some moments in the game the offensive line broke down. There was a couple of times where there was some blitzing, great blitzes, great blitz recognition by Rex Ryan, where he brought a corner after Brady. Brady couldn't handle that. Sometimes the one-on-one matchups, they couldn't handle the pressure of some of the guys moving it forward. What does Brady do? He doesn't panic. He finds guys like Danny Amendola. A nice game by him. He found Gronkowski, even though Gronkowski was relatively quiet in that game. And then, of course, the running backs. I mean, look, Garrett Blount was nowhere to be seen. He had a horrific game. Nothing more to say about that. And then behind that, you had other games going on. So at the end of the day, you kind of always you can always figure out, you can always see how this is going to play out. But the thing is what is New England's defense going to do to Brock Osweiler? How are they going to handle him in this situation? Because remember, he's relatively new. You don't know much about him, so you don't have that much tape. This is actually an advantage for the Denver Broncos because of the fact that New England is going up against a guy with a different look, a different setup. The playbook's going to be a little more scripted down. It's going to be very stripped down. There's probably going to be about maybe 15 to 20 plays you're going to see from Denver that maybe it's going to be more traditional. So you're going to see some plays that maybe New England's going to see a lot of, maybe in different techniques, different formats. Maybe a tight end might shift a different way, so New England's going to have to recognize that. The one thing that they're going to have to do, and Denver is actually really good, is that how are they going to split the field out? And that's the one thing I think Denver needs to do. Don't bunch this up. You're going to have a lot of guys that's going to look for pressure to try to get to Osweiler. If what you have to do is go with 4 wide receivers, 5 wide receiver packages, break it up, open the field a little more. Basically, that puts more guys out on the field, out on the perimeter, and New England is going to have to basically rely on 3 to 4 man front to get into the coverage to try to get to Osweiler, because if they don't, basically, if they start going short slant passes, open the middle of the field, because when you break the field wide open, the middle is always a quarterback's best friend, right between the hash marks. If they start doing that, we might have an upset in our hands. But at the end of the day, because I'm playing this like an analyst, I won't pick on the game. I'm going to do it as a professional courtesy, just to give you the keys of the game, just like who does that? Actually,
just like Kirk Herbstreit does on the College Game Day.
Yeah. So because this is the game that I am vested interest in and I want to do on my own, I'm not going to make a pick for this game, but those are the keys to the victory for both teams. If I had to pick, I would take the New England Patriots to beat the Denver Broncos. However, as a professional, as a broadcaster, I basically wipe my hands clean, and I'm saying no pick for me. But this is gonna definitely be a very thrilling matchup. Plus, on top of that, whenever Denver and New England get going, it's always an uphill battle. It's always a fight, and I think we're gonna see that again on Sunday night. No doubt about it. Anthony, it's yours.
Yes. Game of the week right here. The game that Fletch and I will have the most vested interest in. The 10-0 New England Patriots, the 8-2 Denver Broncos.
Don't forget me.
Yeah, and you too, Bullock, obviously. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, definitely. But I know it's been the last couple of days have been exciting for me, so I got caught up in the moment. But yes, all of us, we're all going to have a major vested interest in this game. Absolutely. I mean, especially Mr. Bullock, because this is another one of his blood red games right here. Because I know he's got a thing for the Denver Broncos as well, and I know this is the game he always has circled on his calendar when the schedule comes out. Believe that. But anyways, my take on this: Tom Brady needs 3 touchdown passes, I believe, to tie Fletch's boyhood idol, Dan Marino, for third all-time and for third in all-time touchdown passes. 3 more TD passes, he'll tie the great Dan Marino for third all-time. The Denver Broncos lead the league in sacks, 34 total sacks. However, I believe they only have 5 total sacks in their last 3 games. That's not going to get it done. And to make matters worse, DeMarcus Ware is out of this game. So they're going to need Von Miller and the rest of that defensive unit to step it up big time. So, yeah, Brock Osweiler, in his second career start, his first at home, he went into Chicago, he beat the Bears 17-15, had a very efficient game. Bullock and I, we've had our afternoon drives there, lately, and for the most part, we talked about, for the most part during those drives, we talked about Brock Osweiler, and Brock Osweiler had, a better than expected game. I mean, we all thought he was going to have somewhat of a meh game, but he was very efficient. He threw for 250 yards, had 2 touchdown passes, and no interceptions against the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field, and leading the Broncos to their first win in that venue since '93, since today's his boss, John Elway, was the starting quarterback. So a huge feather in the cap for Brock Osweiler. Now, he's going up against far and away the best team in the National Football League, although the Carolina Panthers are very close second. But you're taking on the best team in the National Football League right now in the New England Patriots. You're reigning and defending Super Bowl champions. The team that I say always finds a way to win. And they expressed that sentiment in a big-time way on Monday night. They always find a way to win. And that's exactly what they did against my Buffalo Bills. Again, as usual, business per usual. But, Brady, Brady's going to have a big game. I'm expecting Rob Gronkowski to have a bounce-back effort after that dismal effort against Buffalo. Amendola is questionable. I hope Amendola goes. I need Amendola to go.
Actually, Florio, he's out.
He's out. Okay.
Yeah, because I saw a thing on the Bleacher Report saying that he didn't even travel with the team, so he's officially out of the game.
Oh, that's a big loss for New England then. I mean, and you've already got Edelman out, and you just put Dobson on the season-ending IR. So you've got Gronk, and you've got Brandon LaFell. Who else do you have? You just got basically those 2 guys. And you could also get LeGarrette Blount into that mix, obviously. So there is a possibility of an upset here. There is a chance Denver could pull the upset here and hand the Patriots their first loss since Week 17 of last season when they lost that meaningless game at home to Buffalo. So there is a realistic chance. But even though I think Osweiler will have another efficient game, I really do. And I think that running game, quarterback-wise, of course, toss-up, no contest. It's Brady all the way. You got to give the edge to Brady. Running game, that's a toss-up because we all know LeGarrette Blount's a very good running back. And, of course, Denver has a 2-headed monster with C.J. Anderson and Ronnie Hillman. So I got to consider myself torn on that. Receiving core, I would have given the edge to New England, but no Julian Edelman, no Danny Amendola, no Aaron Dobson. All you've got is Rob Gronkowski and Brandon LaFell. So they're going to need some other guys to step it up. For Denver, of course, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and the rest of that core, I might have to give a slight edge to Denver here. But the thing is, it's a toss-up. That's another toss-up. I really don't know who to go with there. Defensive-wise, I got to give the edge to Denver because we all know that defense is amazing. Like I said, they lead the league with 34 sacks. Kicking game, you got to give a slight edge to Gostkowski, even though McManus has had some moments, but Gostkowski's the better kicker. And as far as the head coach goes, that's another no contest. It's Belichick. I mean, love him or hate him, you got to give the edge to Bill Belichick. No disrespect to Gary Kubiak. I mean, he's done a great job in Denver, but I got to give the edge to Belichick here. Who wins? Well, only because they always find a way to win, and they're going to need to do that now more than ever on Sunday night. I got this feeling in the pit of my stomach that the New England Patriots will yet again find a way to win. So I am going with the New England Patriots to defeat the Denver Broncos on Sunday night. Keep their unbeaten streak going. Final score, I'm going to use this score for the second time tonight. 30-27. The New England Patriots over the Denver Broncos in Mile High. Should be another great game. I think they can still have a 5-star classic, even without Peyton Manning, even without Danny Amendola and Julian Edelman and all these other major weapons. They can still do it, and I think they can. So I do believe there will be a high level of Shakespearean drama this time around. So would I be surprised if Denver won? No, I wouldn't. But New England's just too damn good. And as I keep saying, I know it sounds like a broken record, but the Patriots always find a way to win, and they probably will again on Sunday night. So 30-27, the New England Patriots over the Denver Broncos. Save the best for last when it comes to this. Michael Bullock, your team, the New England Patriots, their biggest threat on the schedule yet, the Denver Broncos. Do your Patriots find a way to win again as always? Or are you going to do the unthinkable and actually go against your own team, which I would be shocked for one?
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be the game of the week, no doubt about it. I mean, I think this could be a 5-star classic, even without Peyton Manning. And I mean, yeah, Peyton Manning's not going to play in this game. No DeMarcus Ware, but like I already said, when it comes to the Patriots, you already know Edelman's out, and of course, Danny Amendola not going to play in this game. He didn't even travel with the team to Denver, so yeah. I mean, you still got Gronkowski and LaFell. Actually, I think he's been coming on as of late. So, but they need some other guys to step up, and I know Chris Harper. I think he definitely needs to step up, and yeah, I think LeGarrette Blount, maybe I think he could have a solid game on the ground because, I mean, yeah, he's on the defensive side for Denver. I mean, yes, you got Von Miller, but no DeMarcus Ware. That's going to hurt them. I mean, but you still got to keep Talib and Chris Harris Jr. when it comes to the corners. So, man, this is definitely a toss-up. So, but either way, I got to go with the New England Patriots to win this one. I'm going to say 34. I'm going to go 34-31. Patriots beat Denver. Brady, I think he'll have a solid game. Gronkowski, I think he'll have a bounce back game. LeGarrette Blount, I think he'll have a solid game on the ground. So yeah. So give me the Patriots to win. They'll improve to 11-0 on the season. So with that being said, Florio, Monday Night Football time.
Not only Monday Night Football, Bullet, but also the Zonk Game of the Week. That's what we have right here. The Zonk Game of the Week. We go from the Game of the Week to the Zonk Game of the Week. The Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cleveland Browns. in Cleveland. Oh boy. Of course, we all know Monday Night Football. You know who's going to be doing that. Mike Tirico, John Gruden, Lisa Salters. They'll be in Cleveland. They met earlier this year in Baltimore, and believe it or not, the Cleveland Browns won that game. So the Ravens, including that loss to Cleveland, but Baltimore still leads the all-time series very big time, 24-9. Last meeting in Cleveland, of course, last year, the Ravens won that 23-21. Browns beat the Ravens at home just 2 years ago in 2013. That was a 24-18 final score in Cleveland. So oh man, but just checking some things here. I know the spread favors the Cleveland Browns. I believe, well, I should say the Ravens, I think, were the favorites. I believe it was a 3-point spread in favor of Baltimore. Not sure why, but, you know, it is what it is. But, like I said, they met earlier this year, and the Cleveland Browns came away with that win. So, just bear with me so I can get the notes of that from that game that the Browns won. Yeah, that was in Week 5. That was Week 5 on October 11th. And ironically, when the game the Browns won, they won it by the exact same score that they won it against the Ravens in 2007. It was a 33-30 overtime win, in which the Browns put up the Browns put up 505 yards of offense in that win, and outgained the Ravens 505 to 377. No turnovers. The defense recorded 1 sack of Joe Flacco, but that doesn't make a difference. Josh McCown absolutely outplayed Joe Flacco. Josh McCown in that game against the Ravens was 36 of 51 for 457 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a rating of 111.3. Granted, the running game was non-existent. I mean, Isaiah Crowell had 49 yards to lead that. But it was Gary Barnidge, who had 139 yards receiving and a touchdown. Travis Benjamin had 83 yards receiving, and Taylor Gabriel had 75 yards of his own. Barnidge had a touchdown as well as Isaiah Crowell. He had a receiving touchdown in that game. Defense had a sack of Joe Flacco. That was recorded by Armani Bryant. He had the lone sack of Flacco in that game. So yeah. So those are the schematics from that Week 5 game in Baltimore back on October 11th. A lot has changed since this game, guys. Both teams are terrible. The Ravens are 3-7. The Browns are 2-8. Johnny Overhype got in trouble again. What else is new? Dinkelberg. I'm not even going to waste my breath on that, or even dignify it.
Dinkelberg.
Exactly, Bullock. We're not going to get into that. Believe me. Let's see. But for the Ravens, as if this season couldn't be any more hard times ridden enough. You already know they lost Terrell Suggs, Achilles tendon. They lost Steve Smith Sr. And to make matters worse, their franchise quarterback, Joe Flacco, he's done for the year after hurting his knee in their win last week against the St. Louis Rams. Wow. That is as hard times as it gets right there. To lose your franchise quarterback, your franchise player on defense, and one of the best receivers of all time, even though he had some noggin diva Dinkelberg moments of his own. That could have been his swan song right there in Steve Smith. So Smith, no Steve Smith, no T-Sizzle, no Joe Flacco. I mean, where did the Ravens go from here? I don't even know who their backup is. I think it's Matt Schaub, I think. So I believe Matt Schaub's going to be getting the start for Baltimore against the Cleveland Browns on Monday night. We know it's not going to be Johnny Overhype. That's obvious, because he got demoted to third string for his little Dinkelberg moment, his newest of many Dinkelberg moments that he's had for so many years. I don't know if it's going to be McCown again. But this, for me, this might come as a surprise, but because of all those injuries and because of everything that's happened to the Ravens this year, I'm actually going to do the unthinkable. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to win this game. I think they can do it, especially without Flacco. How can the Ravens go in there and get a win? I'm actually going to surprise you boys. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to get it done yet again. 20-17. That's my final score. So that's it. I'm not going to waste any more time on this Zonk game of the week. So, Michael Bullock, the Zonk game of the week, the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns. Do you think the Cleveland? Do you agree with me? Do you think the Cleveland Browns can get the Ravens again, or do you think the Ravens can go into Cleveland and pull one out even without their franchise quarterback Joe Flacco?
You know what? I'm actually going to agree with you, Anthony Florio. I'm actually going to go with the Cleveland Browns to win this one. I mean, for all the things you mentioned, I mean, the injuries for the Ravens, it's just been, I mean, it's really hit them hard. I mean, it is definitely a hard time season. I mean, you lose your franchise player on defense, Terrell Suggs. You lose Steve Smith. And now you lose Joe Flacco, your franchise quarterback? Yeah, that is the true definition of hard times right there. So, yeah, even though Cleveland, they haven't been good as well. I mean, the thing is, I gotta go with Cleveland. I mean, they're at home, and yeah, I think Cleveland will win. I think the final score for me, I'm gonna go 21-17 is gonna be my final score. So, I'm not gonna waste any more time on this Zonk game of the week. Fletcher, it's yours.
It is a Zonk game of the week. I'm not going to waste any time either. I'm just going to say it like this. Cleveland wins. Everybody's thinking, oh, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. No, it's not. 30-13. Beat down. Florio, go.
And we will go to the power rankings. And, well, we just lost Michael Fletcher. So yeah.
We just lost Fletch.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I think he probably had to go.
I don't see anything in the text chat box, but no, Fletch is out. So we're just going to move on. Of course, next week, there are some good matchups next week. I mean, of course, that Thursday night game with Green Bay and Detroit, Houston and Buffalo square off, Seattle and Minnesota in an interesting NFC matchup. Carolina looking to stay unbeaten against New Orleans. The Jets and the Giants in the Battle of New York. Atlanta against Tampa Bay. KC against Oakland should be an interesting game. Your Patriots, Bullock against Philadelphia. Sunday Night Football, which I think is the game of the week. Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to some of those games next week. So with that said, it's now time for the Strictly Sports NFL Power Rankings, and I'm guessing Michael Fletcher had to leave because of work commitments or something like that. I'm not sure, but so with that said, I'm just going to start.
You would think that he probably wouldn't be because of the Black Friday today.
Very, very possible. So with that said, I'm just going to start it off when it comes to power rankings, and I'm going to let you know. I do have a couple of honorable mentions. One of them, believe it or not, even though the record's still a ways off, I mean, you have to give it up for the Detroit Lions. I mean, they've won 3 games in a row. I mean, especially after what they did to Philadelphia yesterday on Thanksgiving. And another one who's almost there but needs a little more work, another honorable mention I have is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, you really have to be impressed with what they've been doing as of late. And as far as duds go, I will say this. I do have a dud team in the in the power rankings this week, as I had this team in there last week, but they're out. They're out this time around. I'm sorry, but the Atlanta Falcons are out of the power rankings, as are the Buffalo Bills. They're both out of the power rankings this time around. So if Atlanta can get it done, in their if they can find a way to win their game against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday, then they'll definitely be back in. But they're gone. And the Buffalo Bills, despite hanging with the New England Patriots, they still lost to the New England Patriots, so they're out. And Atlanta's body of work has just been absolutely god-awful. They've lost 3 in a row, and I cannot in good conscience keep them in the power rankings after how putrid they've been. So get them out of here. So with that said, we're just going to dive right into to this installment of the power rankings, and I'm going to start it off. When it comes to number 10, I mean, it's between 2 teams. I will admit it. It's between 2 teams. It's between the Indianapolis Colts and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts as my number 10 in the power rankings this week. They're back to 500. They're 5-5. Just barely lead the AFC South. They've won 2 in a row and beating 2 very good teams in the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, huge win against the Atlanta Falcons. They go into Atlanta. They get it done there. Even without Andrew Luck. I mean, defense played very well. They had 4 turnovers, also had a sack of Matt Ryan. Despite getting outgained 375 to 276 and committing 3 turnovers of their own, and Hasselbeck getting sacked twice. I mean, Hasselbeck, a couple of touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. The running game, like I said, has to get going. Gore only had 34 yards. Bradshaw had only 32. Receiving core was no better, but Ahmad Bradshaw had 2 receiving touchdowns, but it was an interception by DeQuell Jackson interception, 6 yards, and then Adam Vinatieri, the ageless wonder, does it again, 43-yard field goal with a minute to go to win the game in Atlanta. So a huge win for the Indianapolis Colts against the Atlanta Falcons, 2 in a row now. Now they host Tampa, the other team I had considered for this spot in the rankings. So we're going to have to wait and see. I think whoever wins that game, I think this could definitely be like a play-in game. Whoever wins stays in the rankings, and whoever loses will be out. So that's really all there is to it. So by a slim margin, I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts at number 9. So Michael Bullock.
You mean number 10?
Yeah, number 10 rather. Number 10 is the Indianapolis Colts. So do you agree with me as far as number 10?
Yeah, I actually do agree with you. I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts as my number 10. So, you pretty much touched on everything on them. So let's move on to number 9, and I'll actually lead off on it. And my number 9, I know this may come as a shock to everyone, but I don't know how you feel about it, Florio, but I'm actually gonna put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in here as my number 9. I mean, I've been really impressed with them lately, and and I'm just gonna pull it off. It's just so. I mean, they've won 2 in a row, and the thing is, what they did against sorry about that. It's just taking a little time here. Yeah, I mean, they blew out the Eagles. I mean, but then again, anybody can do it. And of course, beating the Dallas Cowboys 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, and I've really been impressed with them lately, and I never would have thought I had him in there. I mean, Doug Martin has, of course, looking for another 1,000-yard season. I mean, especially after running for over 200 yards last week, and Jameis Winston has been playing playing solid at the quarterback's position. So I know this is going to come as a surprise to some, but yeah, I've been really impressed with them over the last 2 games. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers are my number 9. So Florio, I give it to you.
Exactly right, Bullock. You did your homework. You obviously heard what I said. I said it was between Indianapolis and Tampa Bay, and I gave Indianapolis 10. So you got to put Tampa Bay as the number 9 team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, yes. I mean, how about it? I mean, 10-6 winners over the Dallas Cowboys, but it was what they did against Philadelphia. I mean, that 45-17 beatdown at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, their first win in Philadelphia in 12 years. I mean, very impressive. I mean, 521 yards of offense, Bullock. I mean, how about that? And then defense forces 4 turnovers, commits, and they forced 4 turnovers, record 3 sacks of Mark Sanchez. I mean, Jameis Winston, 5 touchdown passes. I think far and away it was his best game as a pro. I mean, 131.6 quarterback rating. Doug Martin, 235 yards, a season high in the NFL this year. And Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson. I mean, 5 different receivers. Mike Evans, Vincent Jackson, Cameron Bratt, Charles Sims, and Russell Shepard had the receiving touchdowns for Tampa Bay. And 3 interceptions, 2 by Levante David and 1 by Chris Conti. Gerald McCoy, 1.5 sacks. Jackie Smith, 1 sack, and then 0.5 sack for Howard Jones. I mean, very impressive performance by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And now they play the Indianapolis Colts. Like I said, it's a playing game. Whoever wins will stay in the power rankings for next week. The loser, well, pretty much will be out. So Bullock is absolutely spot on here. He obviously did his homework. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are number 9. I 100% agree. So with that said, we're just going to move on to number 8 now. And as far as number 8 is concerned, well, I'm going to say it like this. The top 3 are absolute no-brainers. 1, 2, and 3, no-brainers. Absolutely no-brainers. Heck, I could even make a case for number 4. And but for right now, so my number 8, it's very tough, but I'm actually gonna go with the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are going to be my number 8 in the rankings this week. I mean, I've been loving Houston's body of work. 3-game winning streak, 5-5. They're tied for first with the Indianapolis Colts. But the Colts technically have the advantage since the Colts beat the Texans back on October 8th, leading off week 5 on the Thursday night. They've won 3 games in a row, beating Tennessee, Cincinnati, of course, the big one in Cincinnati, and then, of course, the win against the Jets. So that obviously did it for me as far as Houston is concerned. I mean, excuse me. 364 yards of offense. Defense forces 2 turnovers, records 3 sacks of Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, well, I do apologize for the pop-up ad that came up there. Yes, T.J. Yates, 2 touchdown passes, and even Cecil Shorts III throws a touchdown pass, 21 yards. Very impressive. Running game needs work. Of course, that running game's not the same without Arian Foster, who's obviously hurt. Alfred Blue led the way with 58 yards, but it was DeAndre Hopkins. I told you how high up on this young man I am. 118 yards, 2 touchdowns in the win. And Alfred Blue had a receiving touchdown as well. He caught that touchdown pass from Cecil Shorts III. So all-around team effort. And they had 2 interceptions. Eddie Pleasant and Andre Howe had the interceptions of Fitzpatrick. 3 sacks for the defense. 2 sacks for, of course, the man, J.J. Watt. And 0.5 sack apiece for John Simon and Jadeveon. And, hey, a Jadeveon Clowney sighting. How about it? 0.5 sack, sure, but Jadeveon Clowney got a 0.5 sack nonetheless. But it was J.J. Watt who led the way. 2 sacks and 8 solo tackles in that win against the New York Jets. So 3-game winning streak now. Of course, they got a tough one against the New Orleans Saints coming up, a game that I think they can win. So that's pretty much it. The Houston Texans are now number 8 in the rankings. So, Michael Bullock, you're number 8.
Yeah, my number 8. I gotta go with the Houston Texans as well. I mean, yeah, you pretty much pretty much touched on everything when it comes to the Houston Texans. So yeah, so there's really nothing else to say except let's move on to number 7. So yeah, I'm trying to see who is my number 7. Actually, my number 7, I'm actually gonna go with this is a tough one, and remember, this is previous to. I mean, we don't count the Thursday night games, or the Thursday games, I should say.
That is right.
Yeah. I'm gonna say number 7. They're gonna have to take a little hit here. I'm gonna have to go with the Minnesota Vikings as my number 7. Yeah, I mean, tough one. I mean, they got blown out big time by the Green Bay Packers. They did give up 30 points in that game. The offense, I mean, really wasn't that impressive. I mean, Adrian Peterson was only held to like 49 yards rushing. Teddy Bridgewater was a no-show as well. So yeah, so Minnesota's going to take a little hit from this. So my number 7 is the Minnesota Vikings. So just remember, like I said, this doesn't count the Thursday night games, so, or the games from yesterday. So Florio, it is yours.
You are right on that, Bullock, and I do agree. Number 7, it is the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, a big hit. I mean, they dropped 4 spots. I mean, you remember we had them in the top 3 last week, and they go from top 3 all the way down to number 7. I mean, they were playing some great ball up until they ran into the Packers. I mean, they had won 5 in a row, and then they go and let that happen. I mean, a 30-13 beatdown at home against the Green Bay Packers. And, yeah, I mean, even though they outgained Green Bay 342-320, they committed a turnover. But here's the big number here, Bullock, on the defensive side. Teddy Bridgewater was sacked 6 times. Yeah, that's the big thing. Bridgewater was sacked 6 times, even though he had a very good game. He had a very, very good game. 296 yards. He threw a touchdown pass, no interceptions, a rating of 100.7. But Adrian Peterson, despite having a rushing touchdown, he only had 45 yards, and Bridgewater had 43. So that's not going to get it done on the receiving core. Kyle Rudolph, like Fletcher mentioned earlier, 106 yards receiving and a touchdown. He had a very good game receiving. Diggs had 66, and Jarius Wright had 50. But other than that, none of the other receivers did nothing. Blair Walsh missed an extra point, didn't even get to attempt a field goal in this game. And a couple of sacks. Everson Griffin and Captain Munnerlyn had the sacks of Aaron Rodgers, but that's pretty much the only bright spot. I mean, anytime your quarterback gets sacked 6 times, that doesn't lead to that's a recipe for disaster right there. So so there you go. Like Bullock said, the Minnesota Vikings are number 7 in the power rankings, taking a hit. So so now we move on to number 6, and my number 6, well, only because of the records. Let's keep that in mind. It's only because of the records. But I have been very impressed with this team's body of work as of late, and they definitely deserve to be in these power rankings. So my number 6 is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, winners of 4 in a row, 5-5 record. That's the only reason why. That's the only thing that's hindering them. But their performance is definitely good enough to be in these power rankings this time around. I mean, like I said, they have been on a major roll as of late. They've won 4 games in a row. I mean, they won on opening day against the Houston Texans, and then they went on a major slide. They lost 5 games in a row. But since that 1-5 start, they've won 5 in a row, 4 in a row rather. They won against the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. Then they win in London against the Detroit Lions, and then 2 big road wins in Denver and San Diego, outscoring the Broncos and the Chargers by a combined 62-16. Now they get the Buffalo Bills coming in, and they got a pretty favorable schedule. I think that they have one of the easiest schedules left. I mean, they got Buffalo coming in. I think they'll win that. Then they got to go to Oakland, and they've owned the Raiders a lot lately. Then they get San Diego coming in. They're terrible. Then they go to Baltimore, a Joe Flacco-less Raven team, by the way. Cleveland, we know how terrible they are. And then they're at home against Oakland. So who knows, Bullock? I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, they're in a very good position here. They're definitely in position for a playoff run here. I think they can actually get in if they keep did you hear how soft that schedule was? I mean, goodness gracious. But let's get into what they did against the San Diego Chargers. I mean, that was their last game. I mean, they pounded the Chargers 33-3 in San Diego, 385 yards of offense. They hold the Chargers to 201 yards of total offense, 14 total first downs. Defense also records 2 turnovers, records 3 sacks of Phillip Rivers. Alex Smith, 20 of 25 for 253. That's it. No TDs, no picks. It was Spencer Ware who led the running attack with 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he was definitely the surprise player in that. The receiving corps didn't do much of anything, but like I said, it was all about the defense and the special teams. I mean, pretty much. Your boy, Bullock, Tamba Ali. I know how much you love Tamba Ali, his body of work. 2 sacks and 5 solo tackles. And Josh Mauga had the other sacks. So, and then Justin Houston had an interception return for a touchdown. So 2 turnovers, 3 sacks, hold the Chargers to 201 yards of total offense, 14 first downs, and that was pretty much it. So it was a very efficient game for the Kansas City Chiefs. So they've won 4 in a row. The only reason why they're not any higher is because of their record. So, but you have to put them ahead of Minnesota, considering Minnesota was terrible against Green Bay. So that's it. Kansas City Chiefs are number 6. So, Michael Bullock, do you agree, or do you have somebody else?
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I'm actually going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs as my number 6. I mean, like you said, that 4-game winning streak is one of the reasons why they're up there. But like you said, because of their even record of 5-5, that's one of the reasons why they're not in the top 5. So there's really nothing more to say. I mean, you pretty much touched on everything. So basically, let's move on to our number 5. So my number 5, looking at everything here, and this is basically for right now. My number 5. This, like I said, this is for right now because we don't count the games from yesterday. For right now, the Green Bay Packers are my number 5. But I'll tell you this: they're going to take a major hit come next week when we do the power rankings after losing to the Chicago Bears the way they did on last night on Thanksgiving night. But the reason why they're number 5 because of the impressive win over the Minnesota. I mean, going into Minnesota and routing them. So I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he had a bounce back game in there. So so for now they will be number 5. But come next power rankings, they will take a major hit. So Florio, it's yours.
I have a tie at number 5, Bullock. And this is the only tie I have. I do agree. One of them is the Green Bay Packers, only because of what they did to Minnesota. Because remember, these rankings are retroactive to the previous week. And my other number 5 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's dive in. Green Bay, I mean, 30-13 win against Minnesota, despite getting outgained 342-320. They forced a turnover, which was a fumble. 6 sacks of Teddy Bridgewater. I cannot stress that enough. Aaron Rodgers, 212 yards passing, 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions, a rating of 86.9. Eddie Lacy, 100 yards rushing to lead the way. James Jones, 109 yards and a touchdown. Randall Cobb, a receiving touchdown as well. And 6 sacks for the defense, 2 sacks for Dayton Jones, 1 sack apiece for Clinton Dix, Casey Hayward. Yeah, HaHa Clinton Dix, Nate Palmer, and Mike Daniels, I'm sorry. And then half a sack apiece for Julius Peppers and Mike Neal. So a great defensive effort for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, 6 total sacks of Bridgewater, and the offense did their work, but they're only number 5 because of that body of work win against Minnesota. But like Michael Bullock said, oh yes, they will definitely take a big hit next week when we do our rankings. Will they even still be in the rankings? We'll have to wait and see on that. So it just depends on the body of work of the other teams. So that's it. My other number 5 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've won 2 in a row. They're 6-4, 38. They beat down the Cleveland Browns 30-9, and well, actually, this team should have been ranked. They actually should have been ranked a little bit lower. Actually, I mean, we missed the bye week rule because they beat down Cleveland on November the 15th, and they didn't play last week. So Pittsburgh should not be in the top 5. They should actually be at number 7 because that's where I have them. So they should be tied at number 7 with the Minnesota Vikings. So that's technically
that's what I'm going to do as well. They should be at number 7 with the Minnesota Vikings. I missed that they had the bye week.
Yeah, I just noticed that myself. So Kansas City will be at number 6. Of course, Green Bay will stay at number 5. So Green Bay's just the sole number 5, only for this week. But next week they'll be out of the top 5. Believe that. So so that's it for that. So the Green Bay Packers are number 5. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they should have been ranked number 7 by virtue of the bye week rule against so they should have been tied at 7 with Minnesota. So that's it. So all that's been cleared up. So I just said Green Bay was number 5. Did you do number 5, Bullock?
I already did. I already told you that it was Green Bay.
Okay. So so number 4. Do I lead off on this one? I believe I do, right?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. Number 4 is me. Okay. My number 4, I got to go with the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos are number 4. Got back on the winning track, 8-2 record. Snapped a 2-game losing streak after tough losses to Indianapolis and Kansas City. They go into Chicago and beat the Chicago Bears. And the reason why I'm putting them at number 4, I mean, it's not just because of the 8-2 record, but it's also because of the body of work of Brock Osweiler. We'll get into that in just a moment. They outgained Chicago 389-347. The defense forced 2 turnovers and recorded 2 sacks of Jay Cutler. And even though Brock Osweiler was sacked 5 times by the Bear defense, they still found a way to get it done. Osweiler, 20 of 27, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a rating of 127.1. Very impressive. Ronnie Hillman, 102 yards rushing. Owen Daniels, 69 yards. But it was Demaryius Thomas and Cody Latimer with the receiving touchdowns. Of course, Vernon Davis, his best game as a Bronco, 6 catches for 68 yards. And 2 sacks for the defense, Derek Wolfe and Von Miller with the sacks, and Danny Trevathan had the interception of Jay Cutler. So it's mainly because of their record and their body of work overall prior to that. So the Denver Broncos are number 4 in this week's power rankings, and I'll say it like this: if they beat Mr. Bullock's New England Patriots on Sunday night, they will most certainly be in the top 3. But if they lose, well, they'll probably still be there, but they'll probably take a little bit of a hit. So that's it. Denver Broncos for now are number 4. Bullock, do you agree, or do you have somebody else?
I do agree. The Denver Broncos are my number 4. So yeah, so you pretty much touched on everything on them. So yeah, so there's really nothing else to say except I'm just going to move on to number 3. So my number 3, I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals. Well, actually, I have a tie at number 3. To be quite honest, actually, my number 3 is the Arizona Cardinals. Well, I thought I had a tie, but actually, it's my own. You know what? I actually have a tie at number 3. One of them is the Arizona Cardinals, and the other one is the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, yeah, I can understand they lost 2. I mean, with the Cincinnati Bengals, they lost 2 in a row, but
They're not in my top 3, Bullock. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh,
I should have
all
had them
right,
in there.
so-
I forgot
all right,
about
so
Cincinnati.
You know what? I actually stand corrected on that. It's Arizona's my lone number 3, so I stand corrected on that. So yeah, an error on my part. Long night and long weekend for me. So yeah, so Arizona's my number 3. I mean, with what they did, of course, last week against Cincinnati. They, of course. Well, let me bring up the numbers from that game. Yeah, of course. Yeah, the stats. Bringing it up, of course. Carson Palmer, 20 of 31 for 317 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he did have a couple of picks, of course. On the running side, 18. Chris Johnson had 18 carries for 63 yards. On the receiving side, J.J. Nelson was the leading receiver. When it comes to yardage rise, he had 4 catches for 142 yards and a touchdown. Larry Fitzgerald had 90 yards receiving. John Brown, Darren Fells, and David Johnson had a touchdown reception. The defense, when it comes to Arizona, Kevin Minter had 10 tackles. Deion Buchanan had a sack. Marcus Golden had a sack. Even the old man, Dwight Freeney, had a sack as well in the game. Same with Rodney Gunter. So yeah, they had 4 sacks in the game total. So when it comes to all that, Tyrann Mathieu had 5 tackles in the game. So yeah, so the body of work of Arizona is definitely good enough to be my number 3. So basically, I got nothing more to say. So Florio, I give it to you.
Another botchamania here. The Cincinnati Bengals really should still be in the power rankings. I actually put them as in a second tie. I put them down at number 6 only because of that tough loss.
I actually have them out of the top 5 because of the back-to-back losses.
Yeah, but this loss was a close one. It was a tough loss to Arizona, so I gave them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
so
the controversial loss.
Yeah, so they're tied at number 6 with the Kansas City Chiefs. So they got to stop the bleeding, and I think they will against the St. Louis Rams. So they'll probably be back in the top 5 next week. So the Cincinnati Bengals, they are co-number 6s. So with all that said, moving on to number 3, Bullock, if you could lower that. My number 3, I do agree with you, Bullock. It is the Arizona Cardinals. And we'll talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals committed a turnover. Andy Dalton was sacked 4 times. The defense for Cincinnati recorded 2 Arizona turnovers and recorded 2 sacks of Carson Palmer, their former quarterback. Andy Dalton had 315 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a rating of 99.8. Jeremy Hill had 45 yards rushing, but he had 2 touchdowns, so I'll give him that. Giovanni Bernard, 128 yards receiving. I'll give him that. A.J. Green, 79 yards. Marvin Jones, 60. Tyler Eifert, 2 touchdown receptions despite just 22 yards. 11 on the year for that young man. Love his body of work from Notre Dame. Nugent was perfect kicking the ball. Michael Johnson and Geno Atkins, the 2 sacks. Leon Hall and Reggie Nelson had interceptions. So those are the Cincinnati Bengals numbers. They should have been at a tie with the Kansas City Chiefs at number 6. So now we're going to move on to the Arizona Cardinals, who are the number 3 team. This is a no doubt about it. They're number 3. They've won 4 in a row. They're 8-2. They put up 383 yards of offense, and despite committing 2 turnovers, they forced the Cincinnati turnover and recorded 4 sacks of Andy Dalton. Carson Palmer, 317 yards, 4 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, a rating of 111.2. Chris Johnson, 63 yards to lead that. J.J. Nelson, how about this young man? 142 yards and a touchdown. Larry Fitzgerald, 90 yards. John Brown and Darren Fells and David Johnson all had receiving touchdowns. So 4 different receivers for Carson Palmer. Chandler Catanzaro, perfect kicking the ball. And then Deion Buchanan, Marcus Golden, Dwight Freeney, and Rodney Gunter had the sacks of Carson Palmer. So or I should say of Andy Dalton. So Carson Palmer sticks it to his former team. Controversial call, but who the hell cares? The Arizona Cardinals, 8-2, they won 4 in a row. They should be at number 3, so there's no doubt about it. So that's it. We're going to move on to number 2 now, and this is a no-brainer again. It's the Carolina Panthers. They're at number 2 in the rankings. I mean, we're not going to count what they did against the Dallas Cowboys, although it was very impressive what they did against the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that's going to reflect on next week's rankings. So at worst, they're going to be number 2 next week. If New England loses to Denver, well, then we're talking number 1 for sure. But the Panthers are number 2 for now. Because remember, these rankings are going back to last week. They absolutely pounded the Washington Redskins 44-16. We'll break down the Dallas game next week. But 44-16 all over the Washington Redskins. They hold the Redskins. Wow. 186 yards of offense, 9 first downs. Defense commits 5 turnovers, also records 5 sacks of Kirk Cousins. They didn't commit any turnovers, but Cam Newton was sacked twice, but that's the only downside. 27-9 in total first downs, 368 to 186 in total yards, 38 minutes and 7 seconds to 21 minutes and 53 seconds. Carolina dominates time of possession. Cam Newton, 5 touchdown passes, no picks, rating of 123.3. Jonathan Stewart, 102 yards rushing. 5 different receivers: Devin Funchess, Greg Olsen, Ted Ginn Jr., Jonathan Stewart, Mike Tolbert, receiving touchdowns for the Carolina Panthers. Gano, perfect kicking the ball. And 5 sacks for the defense. 1.5 for Mario Addison. 1 for Benny Benwicker. 1 for Kyle Love. 1 for Coney Ely. And 1/2 a sack for Ryan Dallaire. And then Kirk Coleman with an interception. So you thought what they did against Washington was impressive. Wait till you hear what they did against the Dallas Cowboys when we talk about them next week. So that is all I can say about it. So for this week, the Carolina Panthers are number 2. They're definitely flirting with number 1, but there's one team in particular that's still in their way of that top spot. So number 2 is the Carolina Panthers. Bullock, I already know who it is. Just give it to us anyway.
Yeah, my number 2 is the Carolina Panthers. You really touched on everything. So let's move on to number 1. And I wonder who that team could be. Oh yeah, it's my team, the reigning, defending Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. They're my number 1 for the once again. What can you say? I mean, 10 straight wins to start the season, and yeah, and of course, they're coming off of a very tough. A tough win over the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football, winning it 20-13. As I bring up the numbers from the game, of course. I thought I had them here, but. Yeah, this is coming off of. Yeah, of course. Of course, Gronk was held to only a couple of catches in that game, but yeah, of course, Tom Brady. I mean, he had a little bit of a tough time when it came to passing the ball, but he did make some plays when they were there. So yeah, Once again, let me try to bring it up. Here we go. Of course, Tom Brady, 20 of 39 for 277 yards and a touchdown, and a pick. Of course, LeGarrette Blount had 56 yards rushing. James White had the lone rushing touchdown. Danny Amendola had 9 catches for 117 yards, and James White also had a touchdown reception in the game. The defense, of course, Logan Ryan had 9 tackles, 6 each for Jonathan Freeney and Rob Ninkovich. Rob Ninkovich also had 1.5 sacks, half a sack for Dominique Easley. So there's really nothing more to say. Of course, they got the Denver Broncos on Sunday night. If they win, they'll definitely remain number 1. So with that being said, my number 1, the reigning, defending Super Bowl champion, New England Patriots. Floria, I already know who you have at number one, but just give us your thoughts.
Yeah, it is the New England Patriots. Once again, number one, the team that always finds a way to win. You know my story. I'm not going to rehash anything else. Bullet touched on everything else. So, but the big question is, how are they going to? Can they get it done in Denver without Amendola, without Edelman, without Dobson? So that's the big question. If they can go into Denver and pull out a win, even without all those guys I just mentioned, yeah, how can they not be number one again next week? But if they lose, well, let's just say we'll have a new number one next week. So that's it. The New England Patriots are number one, and that's going to put the bow on this edition of NFL Friday for this week. Of course, it'll be time for our shout-outs now. Bullock, you started off. I'll take it, and then I'll set up the future content, although there's not much future content. So Bullock, it's all yours.
All right. Of course, we want to thank you all so very much for tuning in for another edition of Strictly Sports NFL Friday. Of course, shout outs to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there who support our shows, whether it's this or the Wrestling Forum. Of course, shout outs to all of our shout outs to our super fans, Dee Woodson, Kevin Woodson, Matt Ward, and Jason Hicksonball. Hopefully all you guys had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Or should I say a Thanksgiving day yesterday, as everyone did. Of course, shout out to all of our friends from our high school days, starting with Al Britterson, Jimmy Alden, Rob Parsons, Eric Carrier, Tom Souza, the First Lady of Strictly Sports, Kaisa Butler, the First Lady of the Wrestling Forum, Megan Silva. Of course, to all of our local personalities, of course, starting with Ken Bell from ABC6, Yanni Caracas, Mark Dondero, and Patrick Little from Channel 12, Frank Arpano and Joe Chiata from NBC 10, of course, Jenny Dell of CBS, and of course, all the personalities from ESPN, starting with the ladies, of course, Sarah Walsh, Lindsay Zarniak, Jamie Sire, Jay McCarthy, Lisa Kearney, and of course the men, of course, Todd Grisham, Jonathan Coachman, and Robert Flores, and of course love Jonathan Coachman's segment. Of course, when it comes to the WWE, of course, this week he's got the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion Sheamus, so it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. So shout out to all the personalities out there at ESPN. So. And of course, from Fox Sports and Fox Sports 1, Aaron Andrews, Carissa Thompson, Julie Stewart-Binks, Jill Arrington, Katie Nolan, and all the rest of that great crew at Fox Sports and Fox Sports 1. And of course, the former Celtics reporter and current Tampa Bay Rays reporter, Emily Austin, and of course, our friends from the Road Show, of course, the former co-hosts, Mary Larson and Megan Mooney. And then, of course, the three current people who do the show, of course, Will Gilbert, Brendan Kirby, and Michaela Johnson. And, of course, last of our my shout-outs, of course, goes to Stata Sorrell and Lindsay McCormick. So, yes, so that's going to do it for me. So until Monday night for an all-new edition of the Wrestling Forums, this is Mike Bullock saying thank you all so much for listening to us. And, of course, you know the routine. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up 14-4 style. Bye for now. Enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving weekend. And, of course, enjoy the rest of the college football Saturday and, of course, NFL on Sunday. So I'll see you guys Monday night for the Wrestling Forum. So, Florio, take us home.
And, of course, you'll be seeing me before that, Bullock, obviously, if you already know what I mean by that. So,
yes, I definitely know.
Yeah. So with all that said, special shout out to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there who continue to make our shows as ridiculously over as they are, whether it's NFL Friday or College Football Thursday, or of course our football feast the other night, which was a lot of fun as always, and then of course the Wrestling Forum. We can't forget about that. And yeah, we got a pretty decent high view count when it came to our Survivor Series shows. Our preview and our recap last weekend, which was really good. About 68 views for the preview and about 46, just a little north of 50 views for the review show. that we had Didi Woodson on for, which was great. So major shout out to all of you fans. You are the best in the world. And of course, the rest of our shout outs, Didi Woodson, Kevin Woodson, and the entire Woodson family. Of course, Matt Ward, Jason Hicksonbaugh, Daniel Luttrell from the UK. Of course, Megan Silva and Kaiser Butler. And of course, Eric Carrier, Tommy Souza, Jimmy Alden, Albert Edison, and of course, a very special happy birthday shout out to our own Rob Parsons, who's celebrating a birthday today. So very happy birthday to Rob Parsons on behalf of all of us here at Strictly Sports. Bullet touched down all the personalities. I'm not going to rehash that. And of course, Olivia Harlan, Kevin Harlan's daughter. You know how much I love her body of work. She covered the Iowa-Nebraska game today. Did a great job with that. And of course, Seda Sorrell, Lindsay McCormick, of course, the Roadshow crew. We can't forget about them. Will Gilbert, Brendan Kirby, and Michaela Johnson, along with former co-hosts Megan Mooney and Mary Larson. And then, of course, last but not least, my church family at Oasis of Grace Ministries on 464 Silver Spring Street in Providence. I'm on track to see them this weekend. So, of course, Sunday mornings at 9, they do a Bible study for those who missed the Wednesday night one. Of course, the usual Sunday service at 10 a.m. and then Wednesday night Bible study at 7, and then other select events that may come up on their end. So really looking forward to seeing them. I had to miss out last weekend, but this time around I should be on track to get back there this time. So definitely looking forward to seeing them after my little brief hiatus. So love you guys, miss you all, and of course to each and every one of you out there, we all hope you had a very happy and blessed Thanksgiving Day. I know I certainly did. I know Bullock did, and I'm sure Fletcher did too. So yeah, that will put the bow on this edition of NFL Friday. Of course, don't forget, next time we'll see you will be Monday night following Raw for the Wrestling Forum. Of course, we will continue to set the table, if you will, for TLC, which is in a couple weeks. It'll be in Boston, in the TD Garden. Of course, this upcoming Raw. Definitely looking forward to seeing how that goes down. Hopefully, it'll be a better show than that god-awful show from last week, which I believe was the worst show of the year so far, because that was that terrible. So hopefully they'll get their act together on Monday night. They better. So that will do it. So until Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, and then of course don't forget next Thursday, College Football Thursday returns, and then we're back for another NFL Friday. So that's it. So until Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, it's Anthony Floyer here for Michael Bullock and in spirit, Michael Fletcher and Derek Ferreira saying, the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy your college football Saturday and NFL Sunday. And until Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, you've been watching Strictly Sports NFL Friday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube.com. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. And for now, Anthony Florio, so long.